Yo, Atlas speaking and welcome to part 16 of What If I Was Reincarnated in Naruto and Became the Adventurous Ninja with the Gamer System. Let the tale begin. Chapter 347, Tobirama vs Hashirama 2. Tobirama vs Hashirama. Deciding to change tactics, Tobirama formed quick hand seals. Water style, water shockwave. A large amount of water quickly formed from the atmosphere and surrounded the second Hokage in a large swirling vortex. The next moment it surged forward with great speed towards its target. Hashirama reacted instantly, slamming his hands onto the ground. Wood style, wood locking wall. Wooden pillars erupted from the earth, forming a barrier that absorbed the water attack. Using the cover of the steam generated from the clash, Tobirama vanished into the mist. Hashirama stood motionless, his eyes scanning through the mist. Suddenly, kunai knives laced with explosive tags flew at him from multiple angles. Hashirama weaved signs. Wood style, branch shield. A dome of intertwined branches enveloped him, the explosions rocking the forest but leaving him unharmed. Suddenly the second Hokage appeared behind Hashirama, having marked him earlier. Now! He thrust his hand forward, releasing a torrent of water needles. Water style, 1,000 deadly needles. Hashirama turned, his eyes meeting Tobirama's. Wood style, great forest technique. His arm transformed into multiple wooden tendrils, intercepting the water needles and extending toward the enemy. Tobirama jumped back, forming new seals. Water style, water encampment wall. A protective sphere of water enveloped him as the wooden tendrils smashed against it. Tobirama decided to employ Jinjutsu. He locked eyes with Hashirama. Bringer of Darkness technique. The entire area plunged into pitch-black darkness, disorienting Hashirama. However, Hashirama's body glowed faintly as he released a burst of chakra. Jinjutsu release. The darkness dissipated, and his eyes found Tobirama immediately. Of course, his chakra control is too strong, Tobirama thought, bracing himself as Hashirama formed new hand seals. Wood style, silent strangle technique. Roots silently broke through the ground beneath Tobirama, wrapping around his ankles and climbing rapidly to ensnare him. Tobirama felt the constriction and channeled chakra to his legs. Body flicker technique. He disappeared in a blur, the roots snapping shut on empty air. He formed a series of rapid hand seals, his chakra flaring. Water style, grand waterfall technique. A massive torrent of water materialized, crashing down toward Hashirama like a tsunami. Hashirama responded by slamming both palms onto the ground. Wood style, advent of a world of flowering trees. Even at a fraction of his power, enormous trees sprouted, their branches intertwining to form a barrier. The water crashed against the wooden fortress, the impact sending mist and debris flying. Tobirama didn't let up. Lightning release, thunder spear. He generated a spear of lightning in his hand, hurling it toward Hashirama's position. The spear pierced through the trees, emitting a blinding flash. An explosion erupted as the lightning spear met something solid. The ground shook and trees nearby toppled. Something big is coming. Tobirama squinted through the smoke to see Hashirama unharmed, standing atop a newly formed wooden golem. A wooden golem? Tobirama exclaimed. The second Hokage quickly analyzed the jutsu. It's nowhere near as big as the one he usually uses. But still, to use this jutsu. Even though he was fighting his brother under terrible circumstances, Tobirama couldn't help but sport a small smile. He's adapting. As expected from you, brother. Far away in the land of Earth, Orochimaru's eyebrows were raised in surprise. So this is the battle between two former Hokages. Incredible. Tobirama Senju is indeed as formidable as written in history. Powerful water-style jutsu created from nothing. Excellent speed and taijutsu skills. To watch him in battle, this is truly a wonderful treat. Orochimaru's thoughts then turned to his own reanimated Senju. And Lord First. His strength is indeed as the legends say. Even at a fraction of his power he is still a legendary ninja. It seems you truly deserve the title god. Soon I'll have that power too. Meanwhile in the Leaf Village, Hiruzen was also keeping an eye on the battlefield through Tobirama. Wooden golem jutsu? How many decades has it been since I've seen that? You're still as frighteningly strong as ever, Lord First. I hope Tobirama-sensei can keep him occupied while Ox searches for them. With Umbu Ox. Ox moved to a set of metal drawers in the room, opening each one in search of anything that could indicate their whereabouts. Scalpel, syringes, unfamiliar herbs. Nothing useful. Time is running out. Leaving the medical room, Ox ventured deeper into the base. The corridors began to slope downward, leading him further underground. The air grew colder, and the walls became damp with condensation. He arrived at a massive door adorned with intricate seals and symbols. Placing a hand on its surface, he could feel the faint hum of chakra. A barrier, he whispered. But not one I can't handle. Recalling his training, Ox began forming a series of hand seals. Kai! The seals on the door shimmered before dissolving into wisps of light. With a heavy push, the door creaked open, revealing a vast chamber beyond. Stepping inside, he was met with an imposing sight. The room was enormous, with ceilings that disappeared into darkness. At its center lay a colossal summoning seal etched into the stone floor, intricate patterns weaving together in a complex design. Ox approached cautiously, the hairs on the back of his neck standing on end. What is this for? He knelt at the edge of the seal, tracing the symbols with his gloved fingers. The design was far more elaborate than any summoning seal he'd seen before. This isn't meant for ordinary creatures, he realized aloud. Orochimaru, what were you planning? He continued deeper into the base, his eyes scanning for any sign of Tsunade or Shizune. But the deeper he went, the more he searched, he realized something chilling. There were no signs of recent activity, no footprints, no lingering chakra signatures besides his own. They're not here. No Orochimaru. No Tsunade. No Shizune. Just this. A sinking feeling settled in his stomach. This whole place is a decoy, he concluded. A trap to keep us occupied. Damn it. Frustration surged through him. They had been led on a wild goose chase while Orochimaru moved unimpeded elsewhere. I need to inform the others. Tobirama versus Hashirama. Hashirama directed the golem to charge. The colossal figure lumbered forward, each step shaking the ground. Tobirama quickly formed more hand seals. Water style, water dragon bullet. A gigantic dragon-shaped mass of water surged forward, colliding head-on with the golem. The two titans struggled against each other, water splashing and wood splintering. Seeing an opening, Tobirama teleported onto the golem's shoulder using a marked kunai. He rushed toward Hashirama, who stood atop the golem's head. Hashirama attacked with a wooden arm that instantly sprouted from the golem. Tobirama, this time enhancing his blade with wind chakra, attacked. Wind style, vacuum blade. The sharpened edge sliced cleanly through the wooden arm. Hashirama responded by generating multiple wooden tendrils from the golem, all converging on Tobirama. Dodging with agility, Tobirama weaved through them, but one caught his leg, throwing off his balance. Seizing the moment, Hashirama commanded the golem to swat Tobirama away. The massive wooden hand struck him, sending him hurtling through several trees before he crashed into the ground. Tobirama groaned, his body regenerating thanks to the reanimation. Hashirama pressed forward. Wood style, Dominion Carnation. Gigantic carnivorous plants emerged from the ground around Tobirama, snapping its large jaws with razor-sharp teeth. The second Hokage quickly clapped his palms together. Water wall. He spit out a large amount of water, and together with the ones created from surrounding areas, a powerful water shield instantly protected him. Hashirama increased the power of his jutsu, and the carnivorous plants soon broke through the water barrier. They neared the second Hokage, but that was also the moment Tobirama was waiting for. The next second he formed a seal and disappeared. In his place was his brother. Flying Thunder God, body switch. Hashirama was in Tobirama's spot and vice versa. The wooden golem stopped moving, and Tobirama, standing atop it, looked down at his older brother. Boom! The second Hokage watched as his brother fell victim to his own jutsu. Tobirama expanded his senses. He felt the battle on the other side ending. It looks like Jiraiya has taken care of things on his end. Why hasn't Ox contacted me yet? Just as Tobirama was wondering where the infiltrator of their team went, a voice appeared in his head. The sound of Anbu Commander Ox. Lord Second. Have you found them? Tobirama asked anxiously. No. There's no one else here. There are barriers meant to mimic multiple chakra signatures to confuse anyone who penetrated the top floor, but there isn't another soul here. This was just a waste of our time. Tobirama's eyes narrowed in anger. Is there nothing else? There is a large chamber with a summoning seal. Several medical equipment are also present. But aside from that, nothing. Ox's reply made Tobirama clench his fist in anger. As I feared. Orochimaru was telling the truth earlier. He and Tsunade aren't in the land of fire. Suddenly a yell came from Ox. Lord Second. This place, it's dash. Tobirama didn't waste a second. He immediately vanished from his position. A second later, two people stood a great distance away from the base. Boom! About to explode. A large explosion consumed Orochimaru's hidden lair along with hundreds of meters of the surrounding forests. Ox was breathing heavily as he knelt near the reanimated second Hokage. That was too close. I was almost a dead man. Jiraiya suddenly joined them. He looked at the Anbu commander and knew their rescue mission was a failure. Suddenly their attention was on the moving large wooden puppet under the first Hokage's control. Tobirama narrowed his eyes. He's recovered from the attack and got back on the golem. No matter. Since they're not here, I don't have to hold back anymore. Install him. Hashirama stood atop his towering wood golem, the massive construct looming over the shattered landscape. The golem's wooden eyes glowed with a fierce intensity, mirroring the determination in Hashirama's gaze. A flicker of life was present in the first Hokage's eyes. Below, Tobirama faced him with a serious gaze, his white hair fluttering in the wind, while Jiraiya and Ox watched the first Hokage with slight nervousness. Jiraiya took a step forward. Lord Tobirama, we can take him together. Ox nodded, his grip tightening on his weapon. There's no need to do this alone. Tobirama raised a hand without looking back. No. This is between me and my brother. Our mission here is over. Tsunade and Shizune aren't here. There's no need to waste any more time. Jiraiya hesitated but then gave a reluctant nod. Understood. We'll be ready if you need us. With a swift motion, Tobirama formed a series of hand seals. Water style, sea formation jutsu. The ground beneath the wood golem trembled as a massive circular pool of water materialized, spreading rapidly. In an instant, thousands of water bullets erupted from the pool, shooting upward like a torrent of arrows. They battered the wood golem relentlessly, splintering limbs and carving gouges into its form. Hashirama steadied himself, weaving his own hand signs. Wood style, nativity of a world of trees. New branches sprouted from the golem, reinforcing damaged areas and shielding against the onslaught. You'll need more than that, Tobirama. The barrage of water bullets began to converge in midair, swirling and merging into a colossal water dragon. Its serpentine body glistened as it roared, diving straight toward Hashirama. Hashirama's eyes widened. Impressive. He clapped his hands together. Wood style, wooden dragon technique. A dragon of intertwined would burst forth, meeting the water dragon head-on. The two titanic beasts clashed, sending shockwaves rippling through the air. Amid the chaos above, Tobirama wasn't done. The pool beneath the golem churned violently, expanding outward and rising up. Water surged in a massive wave, forming a gigantic dome that enveloped both the wood golem and Hashirama. Hashirama glanced down as the water closed over him. A water prison of this scale? Inside the dome, the world was a distorted blur of rippling water and shifting light. Tobirama appeared within, his expression cold and resolute. This ends now. He unfurled a scroll, releasing hundreds of paper tags that scattered throughout the dome. As they adhered to the inner surface and the wood golem, the tags began to multiply exponentially, hundreds became thousands in mere seconds. Hashirama's face grew serious. The mutually multiplying explosive tags. You always were thorough. Tobirama gave a slight nod. Tobirama's form flickered as he activated the Flying Thunder God technique, vanishing from within the dome just as the first explosions ignited. Outside, Jiraiya and Ox shielded themselves as the water dome lit up from within, a brilliant glow that grew brighter before erupting in a cataclysmic explosion. Water, steam, and shards of wood blasted outward, the shockwave flattening trees and sending debris hurtling in all directions. The ground shook, and a plume of steam rose high into the sky. As the aftermath settled, a deep crater was all that remained where the wood golem once stood. Tobirama reappeared beside Jiraiya and Ox, his gaze fixed on the devastation. Jiraiya approached cautiously. Is it over? Tobirama nodded slowly. He'll regenerate, but it'll be slow. That will give us our chance. Chapter 348, My Precious Granddaughter. The forest was a battlefield of shattered trees and scorched earth. Smoke lingered in the air, wisps of flames clinging to trees. It was proof of the fierce clash between the two legendary ninjas. Tobirama stood amid the wreckage, his white hair stained with dirt and sweat, his eyes fixed on the dissipating dust cloud where his brother had been moments before. Was that the multiplying tandem paper bombs? That's one hell of a jutsu. Jiraiya muttered, watching as the last of the explosions subsided. Nearby Umbu Ox merely nodded his head in astonishment. He had rarely seen such destructive jutsu. Is this the power of the shinobi who survived the warring era? Unbelievable. The ground where Hashirama stood was now a dark deep crater, smoke rising from its depths. There were no movements, but they knew it wouldn't be that easy. As expected, fragments of wood and flesh began to coalesce at the center of the crater. Hashirama's reanimated body was regenerating, cells knitting back together with unsettling speed. Tobirama clenched his fists. I should act now. There's no need to waste any more time on this. He vanished with his teleportation jutsu before Jiraiya or Ox registered his movements. His hands already completed weaving several seals. Ninja Art Double Tetragram Paralysis Seal. A series of sealing lines spread all over Hashirama's body, stopping his movements. His body regenerated, but he was completely still. As the man's face was restored, his eyes went to his little brother. The second Hokage placed a hand on his elder brother's neck and the seal symbols covering his head vanished, allowing the first Hokage to speak. By this time Jiraiya and Ox also landed near the two former Kages. Hashirama had a small smile on his face. You really didn't hold back. Tobirama. Forgive me, brother. But I don't have that luxury. Without wasting a moment, Tobirama slammed another seal onto Hashirama's forehead. The seal glowed briefly before fading into his skin. Summoning Disruption Seal, Tobirama stated. This will prevent Orochimaru from summoning you back to him. His little brother's words and the expression on his face gave the first Hokage a bad feeling. Orochimaru, who was observing the battle through his puppet, realized what had transpired. Damn you, Tobirama, he hissed, his golden eyes narrowing. You've severed my connection. He was furious at being outplayed. Hashirama blinked, worry and confusion on his face. What's going on, Tobirama? He asked. Tobirama took a deep breath. There's something you should know. Orochimaru has kidnapped Tsunade. She's in grave danger. Hashirama's eyes widened, a mixture of shock and pain flashing across his features. Tsunade. Hearing her name, a memory came to the forefront of his mind. Huh. I win again. In a gambling den, Hashirama had a big grin as he grabbed all his winning chips and cash. At that moment he didn't have the appearance of the leader of a great village. He looked like a pure gambling uncle looking to have a good time. Wow. That's a lot of money, Grandpa. A childish voice came from behind him. Yup. I'm gonna put all this into an even bigger bet. Hashirama, who was drunk, didn't register the familiar voice at first. But that ignorance only lasted a few seconds. The smile on his face suddenly vanished and he blinked a few times before robotically turning his head in the direction of the voice. The first Hokage saw a small hand struggling to reach for the wad of cash on the table. His head turned and followed the hand to the blonde hair and he was shocked to see a very familiar face. Pfft. Tsunade. He spit his sake all over the table and exclaimed in shock. What are you doing here? How did you even get in here? Little Tsunade, who was 5 years old, had a big smile as she looked at her grandpa. I saw you looking all shady while coming here so I followed you in. And I told them I was with you. Hashirama was having a mental freak out. Gah! If my son finds out Tsunade was here, no. If Mio finds out she followed me here, I'm a dead man. I need to make sure they don't ever know. Suddenly he put on a big smile and picked up the little girl and sat her on his lap. Now, Tsuna, it's not good to trail your grandpa all the time. I could be on a dangerous mission sometimes and you'd be in trouble if you follow me. Oh? Tsunade frowned cutely and tilted his head. So I shouldn't have followed you here? No. So why don't we keep this a secret, huh? Just a secret between you and me. The first Hokage had a charming smile as he looked at his granddaughter. Okay, Grandpa. Tsunade smiled innocently and nodded her head. Hashirama breathed a sigh of relief, but little did he know it was not going to end there. So what do I get in return? The next second the little blonde girl asked cutely. Hashirama had to double take as he looked at his granddaughter. Since you want to keep this a secret, I'm guessing you don't want Dad or Grandma to know. So what are you going to give me? The little girl had a cute smile and looked like an angel, but for Hashirama it looked as if she was smiling like the devil. How about a toy when we leave here? Yeah. I'll buy you some great toys. The first Hokage tried to bribe Tsunade with toys, but she was not having it. No. They're boring. Besides, I already have a lot of them. She replied. Hashirama was stumped. So what do you want? He asked with a small trepidation. I want to play this game. Tsunade said, pointing her hand at the gambling table. The first Hokage was stumped for a few seconds as he looked to where she was pointing before vehemently refusing it. Nope. Absolutely not. I'm not gonna let you gamble. But it looks so fun. Please, Grandpa. No. I won't allow it. Hashirama put his foot down. Tsunade looked downtrodden and slowly nodded her head. Fine. There's not much else I want right now. So you'll keep this a secret? The man asked his granddaughter with slight fear in his heart. Yeah. Before Tsunade's reply could bring relief to the man, she continued. But you know, I sometimes talk in my sleep. And Grandma invited me to stay with her for this weekend. So when I sleep I don't know what I might say. Hashirama's jaw dropped and his eyes widened as he looked at the little girl trying to look innocent. Why, you little? That's extortion. I don't know what that means, Grandpa. Tsunade gave a nonchalant reply. The Kage of the Leaf Village was silent as he looked at his granddaughter. To think that I, Hashirama Senju, the first Hokage and god of shinobi, would be brought down to my knees by a little girl. I'm kinda glad Madara isn't here. He'd never let me live this down. Please. This looks so fun. Just one game. I promise we'll stop after one game. And I won't say anything. Finally he relented. Fine. One game. Yay. Tsunade pumped her fists in the air in victory. Hashirama looked at his granddaughter and sighed. He tried to find the positive side of this situation. Perhaps this isn't so bad. Who knows, if she's inherited my luck, maybe this could be a good thing. I might be able to double my money. A minute later, after one round of game, Hashirama was looking on in despair as all his earlier winnings were taken away by the house. All my money. He had tears pouring down his face as he saw how quickly his granddaughter lost all his winnings. That was fun. I want to do it again. Tsunade, on the other hand, was extremely happy. Hashirama looked at the little girl and cried. You really have no luck at all. At this moment Tsunade looked at the end of the table and saw a glass with a slightly yellow drink. Goo. A juice. I want to try that. No! Hashirama shouted and he immediately hoisted his granddaughter and carried her on his shoulders like a sack of potatoes. We're leaving. And you are not going to say a word of this to your dad or grandma. But dash. No buts. The first Hokage had fear in his eyes. Not for himself but for his precious granddaughter. Tsunade? She was taken? Yes, Tobirama confirmed with a solemn expression. Orochimaru took her and her apprentice Shizun over 30 hours ago. We're doing everything we can to find them. The weight of the news hit Hashirama hard. His partially regenerated body trembled, and for a moment, the ever-boisterous first Hokage looked utterly defeated. How could I have been so blind, used as a tool against my own family? It's not your fault, Tobirama said firmly. Hashirama closed his eyes, focusing inward. He could feel his soul straining against the bounds of the reanimation. The pain of knowing his kin was in danger ignited something within him. His body began to glow softly. It seems my time here is short, and I couldn't even help you, he said, a gentle smile returning to his face. Funny, even in death, there's no rest for the wicked, or the righteous, it seems. The reanimated body of the first Hokage began to break apart and Orochimaru lost complete control over his jutsu. His soul hovered just above the ground. He wanted to help them find his family. I could sense Orochimaru's chakra, faint, but it was there. Tobirama leaned in. Where? Jiraiya and Ox were also paying close attention. Somewhere in the land of Earth, Hashirama whispered. A hidden location, he's masked it well, but not completely. Not to me. I believe this is a weakness of your jutsu. After saying those words Hashirama's soul slowly began to ascend. Brother. Tobirama began, but Hashirama raised a hand to stop him. No need for farewells, Hashirama said warmly. Just promise me you'll bring Tsunade and her student back safely. Tobirama nodded solemnly. You have my word. Hashirama's form started to break apart into shimmering particles of light. Before he disappeared completely, he looked into Tobirama's eyes one last time. Take care of our village. And Tobirama, try to smile more. A faint chuckle escaped Tobirama's lips. I'll consider it. With that, Hashirama's soul ascended, the light fading into the sky. Jiraiya walked up to Tobirama. Is he gone? Tobirama confirmed. But he gave us valuable information. Orochimaru is in the land of Earth. Jiraiya frowned. The land of Earth? That's a long way from here. Exactly, Tobirama replied. Which explains why we couldn't find any traces of him nearby. He's been orchestrating everything from afar. Back in the Lee village, Hiruzen, who was watching everything, sat in a chair. Land of Earth. Daichi was right all along. But going there? No, this must be done. But this will need proper planning. Ox's eyes behind his mask hardened. We're chasing shadows. Orochimaru has been one step ahead. Jiraiya clenched his fists. Then we need to catch up. If he's in the land of Earth, we need to move now. Agreed, Tobirama said. But we have to proceed with caution. Orochimaru won't be alone, and the land of Earth isn't exactly friendly territory. Ox stepped forward. I can mobilize a tracking unit. With Lord Second's abilities and Lord Jiraiya's connections, we might have a chance. Jiraiya crossed his arms and spoke. It's not that simple. After what happened, Inoki has increased defenses around the country. Tensions are high right now. If we go in at this time and get caught, it could have serious backlash for the village. I'm not saying we shouldn't go. I'm saying we need to make some preparations. Tobirama glanced at Jiraiya and agreed with his assessment. Gather what intel you can. I'll inform Hiruzen. Jiraiya nodded. Right. I already have some people working on it. If Orochimaru is hiding in the land of Earth, someone must have seen something. Jiraiya boy. We'll head home. Contact us if you need anything. Fukasaku said to his student. It's going to be all right. I have no doubt you'll bring her home. Shima gave some encouraging words to reassure him. Thank you, Pa, Ma. Jiraiya nodded. Lord Second. The two toes nodded at the reanimated Kage and vanished in a puff of smoke. Tobirama glanced at the two remaining ninjas. The scouts reported that there was nothing else here. I would have had us conduct another investigation ourselves, but that would just be a waste of time. Let's head back to the village. As they prepared to move out, Tobirama cast one last glance at the spot where Hashirama had vanished. Rest easy, brother. We'll bring her back. The second Hokage placed his hand on the two ninjas and vanished instantly. Chapter 349, A Cat and Mouse Game. Deep within the winding tunnels of his secret underground base in the land of Earth, Orochimaru paced back and forth. The dim light from flickering torches cast long shadows on the damp stone walls, giving the place an even eerier feel. He stopped abruptly, sensing a shift in the chakra he'd been monitoring. So, Hashirama's soul has been released, he muttered to himself, annoyance evident in his tone. And Fukai has been sealed by Jiraiya. He clicked his tongue, frustration creeping in. Losing two valuable reanimations this early wasn't part of my plan. Orochimaru focused on the sealed reanimation ninja. Tobirama Senju was the one who created the reanimation jutsu. If he figures out a way to counter or destroy my control, he could turn Fukai against me. It seems his purpose has come to an end. With a swift hand sign, he decided to cut his losses. There's no point in keeping you around if you're only going to become a liability for me, he said, releasing the reanimation jutsu on Fukai, the former Eight-Tails Jinchuriki. The connection severed, and he felt the soul depart. Orochimaru took a deep breath, trying to calm the irritation bubbling inside. No matter, he whispered, a sly grin forming on his face. What I gain from this will far outweigh any setbacks. In the belly of a large toad in Mount Maiboku, two small toads were guarding a sealed ninja. Suddenly they saw the soul of a man coming out from the sealed coffin and they were immediately on guard. Fukai looked at his spirit form and then at the toads and understood that he was defeated and was released. Tell Jiraiya that Orochimaru has released his forbidden jutsu. I'm finally free. With those words Blue Bee's soul vanished. The two toads, witnessing the departure of the man, quickly left to inform their summoner. Back in the secret hideout in the land of Earth, Orochimaru entered the lab where Tsunade was being kept. He began arranging various vials and instruments on a nearby table. Everything is almost ready, he mused aloud. Shizen watched him warily. What are you planning on doing to her now? She asked, dread creeping into her voice. He glanced over his shoulder, a glint of excitement in his eyes. Oh, just another little experiment. Tsunade possesses something very special, and I intend to make the most of it. You're insane if you think you'll get away with this, Shizen said, clenching her fists. They'll come for us. The snake Sannin smiled slyly. Oh, I'm counting on it, my dear. But it'll be a little too late by then. He held up a syringe filled with a swirling, iridescent liquid. With this, the boundaries of what's possible will be pushed even further, he whispered, almost to himself. Shizen prepared to defend her unconscious master, but multiple snakes launched at her from the shadows and restrained her limbs. She gritted her teeth in anger as tears flowed down her cheek. You bastard. You won't succeed, she said firmly. Lady Tsunade is stronger than you think. He chuckled. We'll see about that. Despite the setbacks of losing Hashirama and Blue Bee, a twisted sense of satisfaction settled over Orochimaru as he proceeded with his experiments. Let them think they gained the upper hand, he thought. In the end, the knowledge and power I acquire from this endeavor will render their efforts meaningless. He looked at Tsunade, gazing down at her unconscious pained face. Soon, everything will change, he murmured. Shizen glared at him. There was desperation mixed with her anger. You won't get away with this. Orochimaru met her gaze, his eyes cold and unblinking. Who's going to stop me? Jiraiya? Sarutobi-sensei? He smirked. By the time they find us, if they ever do, it will be too late. The snake Sannin felt a thrill at the thought of what was to come. Let them chase shadows, he mused. I'm always one step ahead. About 10 minutes later. On the battlefield where the two legendary Hokages fought, a figure appeared. Zetsu emerged from the shadows of the dense forest, his black and white house contrasting sharply against the green backdrop. He moved silently, his eyes scanning the devastated landscape ahead. The ground was torn up, trees splintered and uprooted, and the air was thick with the lingering traces of powerful jutsu. Looks like we just missed a big party, White Zetsu commented, his voice light. Indeed, Black Zetsu replied, more seriously. There are traces of tailed beast chakra here. They approached one of the large craters, its edges still smoldering. The remnants of tailed beast energy hung in the air, faint but unmistakable. Nearby, scorched marks and deep gashes indicated intense battles. He moved closer, kneeling down to touch the scorched earth. That's definitely the Eight Tails chakra, White Zetsu observed. But that doesn't make any sense. Its Jinchuriki should be in the Hidden Cloud Village right now, isn't it? Black Zetsu nodded. He is. Killer Bee is the Rakich's younger brother. His every movement is under close scrutiny. I doubt this was him. And over there, Black Zetsu then pointed to an area where the ground was covered in wooden spikes and vines. That's remnants of wood-style jutsu. Only one person could have done that. Hashirama Senju, they said in unison. But he's been dead for ages, White Zetsu added, confusion creeping into his voice. How could his chakra be here? Black Zetsu's eyes narrowed. And this water residue. It's consistent with Tobirama's techniques. He looked around and saw several large pools of water all around. Multiple powerful water-style jutsus were used here. His familiar chakra is still lingering in the air. White Zetsu looked around, scratching his head. So you're telling me both the first and second Hokages were here, fighting? That doesn't make any sense. Who could have defeated such powerful shinobis and even subdued a tailed beast's chakra so quickly? White Zetsu wondered aloud. Black Zetsu didn't answer and moved to another crater, smaller but just as devastating. The signs of explosive tags were evident, shards of paper still fluttering in the breeze. The spy of the Akatsuki moved a little further, coming across another area scarred by battle. The ground was charred, with traces of oil slicked across the surface. Small flames flickered here and there, struggling to stay alive. Fire and oil, and this residue, Black Zetsu noted, closing his eyes briefly. Natural energy. Someone was using Sage Mode. White Zetsu's face lit up with realization. Jiraiya. The Toad Sage was here too. So, Black Zetsu pieced it together. Jiraiya was fighting here, likely against the reanimated Jinchuriki of the Eight Tails. And over there, the marks on those woods indicate that Tobirama faced off against Hashirama. Black Zetsu was silent for a moment. There's only one explanation that fits, he finally said. Someone is using the reanimation jutsu. Reanimation jutsu? Isn't that the one that brings the dead back to life? White Zetsu asked his counterpart as if to confirm. Yes. But who could have used that? White Zetsu asked. You already know who? Orochimaru, White Zetsu guessed after several seconds. I guess he's the only one crazy enough and with enough knowledge to pull that off. Yes. He is the most likely culprit. He's been delving into forbidden techniques for the last decade after all. Black Zetsu concluded. White Zetsu nodded his head and agreed. Makes sense. But if the Leaf Ninjas were able to defeat reanimated versions of Hashirama and the Eight-Tails Jinchuriki, they've gotten stronger. Or the reanimations weren't at full power. There are certain limitations for that jutsu. Black Zetsu countered. Either way, this is a problem. White Zetsu agreed. It seems he's been busy. He didn't just abduct Tsunade and Shizune. He's also using the reanimation jutsu to fight the Leaf Ninjas. This could complicate our plans. But who did they fight? And did they win or did those reanimated ninjas kill them? White Zeta asked his black self. All good questions. We should inform Obito, White Zetsu suggested. He'll want to know about this. Agreed, Black Zetsu replied. The involvement of Orochimaru and the possibility of reanimated Hokages and a Jinchuriki can't be ignored. We need to adjust accordingly. But a question formed in Black Zetsu's mind. There is still a problem. All signs in the surroundings point to a fight between the first and second Hokages. Why would Hashirama fight Tobirama? Unless those two were on opposite sides. Does that mean? Did Orochimaru lose control of his jutsu or is it possible that the Leaf Village has used reanimation jutsu on one of the first two Hokages? If so, then who? He kept his thoughts to himself and prepared to leave. They began to sink back into the ground, melding with the earth. I wonder what Orochimaru's endgame is, White Zetsu mused as they disappeared. Whatever it is, we need to be ready for anything, Black Zetsu responded. With that, they vanished completely, leaving the ravaged battlefield behind. 8:40 a.m. Hidden Leaf Village, Daichi Hekima. In a quiet room filled with stacks of documents and scrolls, Daichi sat alone at a wooden desk. He leaned back in his chair, rubbing his temples. Why was the interrogation quest with Mizuki considered a success, he thought to himself. I barely got any useful information, and the trail went cold so quickly. The lead he followed had taken him on a wild goose chase, ending in a dead end far from any significant findings. Yet, the quest reward says increased chances of rescuing them, he mused, tapping his fingers on the desk. It doesn't make sense. He gazed around the cluttered room, his eyes landing on a scroll detailing his encounter with Guren. The ambush near the fire capo replayed in his mind. Guren and her team had been formidable opponents, but he'd managed to defeat them and bring Guren back as a prisoner. Wait a minute, could Guren be the key? Mizuki's interrogation might not have given us much, but encountering Guren couldn't have been a coincidence. She's one of Orochimaru's top subordinates. It was Mizuki's interrogation that ultimately led me to that encounter with her. So she must have some intel with her that could help us. Too bad she's dead. I hope Inoichi and Ibiki got every useful intel out of her. Daichi was suddenly taken back by his own thoughts. Geez. Has my value for human life gotten so low? I didn't even feel a tinge of remorse or sadness for her. Stay strong, Daichi. Now is not the time for you to lose it. The finance minister of the land of Earth's royal court is involved with Orochimaru, he pondered. Half an hour ago, Kakashi-sensei and I finally connected the dots. He recalled the discussion with Kakashi earlier. They had sifted through countless reports, piecing together the subtle clues. Shipments from the land of snow, diverted patrol routes, unaccounted cargo, it all points to the minister, he mused. But we need concrete evidence. Daichi had created a shadow clone and updated it with this crucial information before dispelling it. My shadow clone should reach the minister's residence in about 6 hours, he calculated. With my disguise, it'll be easier to move undetected. He leaned back, gazing at the ceiling. Interrogating the minister of a great nation is extremely risky, he thought. But it's my best chance to find out where Orochimaru is hiding Tsunade-sensei and Shizune. A flicker of concern crossed his mind. What if my clone encounters unforeseen obstacles, he wondered. No, I have to trust in my abilities. My shadow clone is just as capable. The room was silent except for the faint rustling of papers as a breeze drifted through the open window. Every moment counts, he reminded himself. Orochimaru's plans are advancing, and we can't afford any delays. He stood up and began pacing slowly. I can't wait 6 hours and do nothing. I'll have the clone investigate from his side. But I have to move forward with my own plans. He clenched his fist with determination. I will find them, he resolved. I won't let anything happen to you too. I promise. Daichi took a deep breath, centering himself. He returned to his seat, pulling a notebook towards him. Might as well use this time to strategize, he decided. Anticipate Orochimaru's moves. As he began jotting down ideas, a quiet confidence settled over him. We're getting closer, he assured himself. I can feel it. Chapter 350, A Last Resort. Intelligence Department. In the bustling communications center of the Intelligence Department building, the third Hokage, Hiruzen Sarutobi, stood amidst a sea of shinobi coordinating the attacks on Orochimaru's 7 bases. A monitoring ninja approached him. Lord Hokage, the captains of all 7 teams have reported in. The bases have been destroyed, several prisoners captured or eliminated, but no sign of Orochimaru or Lady Tsunade. Hiruzen nodded solemnly. What are the casualties? 21 confirmed dead. 8 wounded. The ninja replied with a somber tone and Hiruzen merely nodded. The Kage glanced over at Shikaku Nara, who was studying a map spread out on a nearby table. Shikaku looked up, meeting Hiruzen's gaze. So, the casualties were as expected. Hiruzen thought. 2 to 4 from each team. Root sleeper agents, removed from play without arousing suspicion. Shikaku approached him quietly. Everything is going according to plan regarding the root agents, he said under his breath. HM. It had to be done. Hiruzen nodded and replied softly. The third Hokage was also keeping an eye on the battle with Hashirama Senju. Learning that the first Hokage had been brought back was a bitter pill to swallow. Through the jutsu that brought his predecessor back, he could see the battle that had taken place. He saw Tobirama confronting his brother, and saw Hashirama taking the revelation of Tsunade's abduction hard. As the vision continued, he learned of Orochimaru's location. The land of Earth. So Daichi was right all along. He remembered Daichi's theory that Orochimaru might be hiding in Earth Country. I should have trusted his instincts more. He turned to the Jonin commander. Shikaku. Begin gathering intelligence on the land of Earth. I want whatever updated information we have on the movements of the Hidden Stone Village patrol squads. Has there been any new piece of information, Lord Hokage? The Nara asked. Orochimaru is in the land of Earth. This has been confirmed. I'm sure Tsunade and Shizen are with him as well. Shikaku nodded. I'll find out what I can. Hiruzen nodded and was about to leave the room to organize a new strategy when Kakashi appeared at the doorway. Lord Hokage, may I have a moment? Kakashi asked, his tone unusually serious. Hiruzen paused. His brows, slightly furrowing. Of course, Kakashi. What is it? Kakashi stepped closer, lowering his voice. It's about what Daichi and I were looking into. We have some new information that could be crucial. Hiruzen raised an eyebrow in surprise. Tell me. We have reason to believe that Orochimaru is working closely with the finance minister of the land of Earth's royal court, Kakashi explained. We've connected several dots, shipments, patrol patterns, and other intel suggests that Orochimaru's main base might be located there. Hiruzen's eyes narrowed. This aligns with what I've just learned. Orochimaru is indeed in the land of Earth. Kakashi seemed surprised. You've confirmed it? Yes, Hiruzen replied. He turned head and called Shikaku over. Shikaku. It seems we might have new leads. Kakashi, tell us everything you found out. Hiruzen ordered and the silver-haired Jonin began explaining his finding with Daichi and their reasoning. By the time Kakashi was done explaining, the Hokage had a serious expression on his face. Kakashi, are you sure the finance minister is involved? The Hokage asked his Jonin. All the evidence we've gone through suggests that. And Daichi seems to believe it. I trust his instincts. Kakashi backed up his student. Hiruzen was surprised. I just wanted to keep the boy busy but I never thought he'd give me such solid results. Well done Daichi. This could be troublesome. An official from the royal court of Earth Nation colludes with a known criminal like Orochimaru. If this matter is exposed it could cause tensions to rise between our nations and the daimyo courts. Shikaku could already foresee the shitstorm that's about to come. Yes. He has a lot to lose. So why would he do that? Hiruzen crossed his arms and thought about why a man in such a highly respected position with a lot of wealth and influence would risk such a thing. The benefits Orochimaru promised him has to outweigh whatever risks involved. So it must be something big. Shikaku thought and several things came to mind but he couldn't form a good conclusion. Lord Hokage, there is something else. At that moment the silver-haired Jonin spoke up. After getting the old Kage's attention, Kakashi continued. Now that Daichi has a lead on his teachers, he's determined to go into the land of Earth. I saw it in his eyes. I doubt we can keep him occupied here for much longer. The old man sighed. I understand Kakashi. Give Shikaku to hear all your findings. And bring Daichi to my office. I need to discuss this matter with Jiraiya as well. I'll decide what to do after. I understand, sir. Kakashi nodded and left. Shikaku. Compile and analyze all the intelligence on the Earth Nation. We'll also need to inform the daimyo. If this situation escalates, I don't want him to be caught off guard. Yes, Lord Hokage. In the deepest chamber of the Hokage Tower a meeting between Hiruzen, Tobirama, Jiraiya and Umbu Commander Ox was taking place. Hiruzen Sarutobi sat at a large wooden table, his fingers interlaced. Tobirama Senju stood nearby, his sharp eyes reflecting deep thought. Jiraiya leaned against the wall, arms crossed, while Umbu Commander Ox stood silently in the shadows. They were discussing the new information brought to Hiruzen's attention. Daichi has presented a compelling theory about Orochimaru's whereabouts, Hiruzen began. Jiraiya raised an eyebrow. So that's why you had me gather intelligence on the land of Earth earlier. He glanced at Hiruzen. You suspected this all along? Hiruzen nodded. I've had my doubts about his theory. But I didn't want to leave any stone unturned. It's why I asked you to gather intel. But your recent encounter and Lord Hashirama's revelation has confirmed my suspicion. How is he doing? Jiraiya asked with concern in his voice. He's keeping himself busy, but Kakashi and I suspect he'll want to go after her soon. The old Kage replied. His intuition is remarkable, Tobirama thought. His analytical skills are certainly impressive. He's given us good leads, but sending him into the land of Earth is a significant risk. Jiraiya pushed off the wall, his expression serious. I have to agree. Tsunade wouldn't want Daichi putting himself in danger like that. Hiruzen looked at Jiraiya thoughtfully. Tell me, Jiraiya, if you were in Daichi's position, would you stand by and do nothing? Jiraiya hesitated. He knows I wouldn't, he admitted silently. Sensei, this is extremely dangerous. We're talking about infiltrating a hostile nation. Lord Second and I can get in, find and rescue them and get out without attracting too much attention. But with Daichi it's different. Jiraiya dash. Sensei, he's young. Look, don't get me wrong, I know he's strong and talented, but this is too dangerous. If anything happens. Age doesn't diminish his capabilities, Hiruzen countered. He's been instrumental in capturing Orochimaru's people and gathering crucial information. Tobirama folded his arms. Hiruzen, we're talking about sending him straight to Orochimaru. After that snake has already failed in capturing the boy. The danger is immense. Jiraiya agreed with the second Hokage. Right. And how do you think Tsunade would feel if she found out he was in danger because of her? Orochimaru already has Shizune. If anything happens to him too, she'll never forgive herself or us for sending him. At this moment, Umbu Commander Ox stepped forward. Lord Jiraiya, Lord Second, with all due respect, I have to disagree with you too. Daichi has proven himself resourceful. With proper support, he could succeed or at the very least help us. The two white-haired ninjas became silent. I'll decide what to do with the boy later. Right now, we need to figure out a way to trace those shipments. Hiruzen spoke up. But that's going to be tough. Jiraiya asked. If even the Hidden Stones patrol squads are unaware, we might reach a dead end. Hiruzen leaned forward. We need to think creatively. Perhaps there's a way to trace the shipments indirectly. Interrogating the finance minister is out of the question. That could start a war. Tobirama mused. We can't question the minister without serious diplomatic repercussions. Exactly, Hiruzen agreed. And with increased border patrols, infiltrating the country undetected will be challenging. Well, challenging to other shinobi anyway. With Jiraiya's infiltration techniques and Lord Second's teleportation jutsu, they'll be able to get into the country no problem. It's the task of finding them that's going to be a headache. Ox sighed. So what's our move? We can't just sit here. Hiruzen met his gaze. We use the information Daichi has gathered to identify weak points. Perhaps there are individuals involved in the transportation of the shipments who can be persuaded to talk. Umbu Commander Ox nodded. I can dispatch covert operatives to gather intelligence on them. Finding out that information and questioning those people. I'm not sure we have such time. But do it anyway. Hiruzen internally sighed. Time is not on our side. Jiraiya frowned. And Daichi? He wants to help, Hiruzen said firmly. And his insight could be invaluable. Tobirama glanced at Hiruzen. You're placing a great deal of trust in him. Because he's earned it, Hiruzen replied. Daichi may be young, but his contributions have been significant. Jiraiya rubbed the back of his neck. I just don't want to see the kid get hurt. Tsunade would never spare us. Hiruzen smiled softly. I understand your concern. But Daichi is determined, much like all of us here. Jiraiya chuckled lightly. All right, point taken. Hiruzen smiled faintly. His dedication is admirable. We'll need more shinobi like him in the days to come. As they were talking, a thought suddenly struck Ox, and he looked at the third Hokage. There might be someone who could perhaps help us. Hiruzen turned to him, curiosity piqued. Who do you have in mind, Ox? Ox took a deep breath. Danzo. He might have insights into the underground networks in the land of Earth. Tobirama's eyes narrowed. Danzo? Are you sure that involving him is wise? Jiraiya crossed his arms. What's Danzo got that we don't? Ox met their gazes steadily. Danzo has connections with certain, unsavory elements. There's a warlord in that region who controls the criminal networks. He's secretive, powerful, and well protected because he's paid off the right people. Hiruzen stroked his beard thoughtfully. Could Danzo's past dealings actually help us now? You believe Danzo has information on this warlord? I'm unsure. But it's worth a try. He is in interrogation. I could ask him. Ox replied with slight hesitation in his voice. Tobirama exchanged a glance with Hiruzen. This warlord might have access to the secret routes and intelligence we're missing. Jiraiya sighed. But trusting Danzo? That's a risky move. Hiruzen considered their options. Given the circumstances, we may not have a choice. If this warlord can lead us to Orochimaru, we need to pursue it. Tobirama crossed his arms. I agree with Jiraiya's concerns, but time is of the essence. We need every advantage we can get. How do we even know he'll help us? He's just sitting in his cell waiting for his execution. And we're the ones who put him there. I'm not so sure he's itching to help us with this. Jiraiya said with a sigh. It's precisely because of that I believe he'll help us. Hiruzen's answer brought a frown to his student's face. You're not thinking of pardoning him, are you? The third Hokage shook his head. No. Regardless of whether he'll help us or not, his fate is sealed. Jiraiya rubbed the back of his neck. Trusting Danzo is a bad idea. I know. I haven't forgotten the lesson I learned a few hours ago. Hiruzen nodded and turned to his Umbu commander. Ox, arrange a meeting with Danzo immediately. Understood, Ox replied, turning to leave. As Ox exited, the room fell into a brief silence. This could either be a breakthrough or a disaster. Hiruzen thought. Tobirama broke the silence. We should prepare for all possible outcomes. Agreed, Hiruzen said. I'll brief the Umbu to monitor the situation discreetly. It's a risky path, but perhaps the only one left. Tobirama considered. It was soon decided that the two Hokages would meet with Danzo and talk to him. Chapter 351, Danzo's Plan, a risk worth taking? The dimly lit corridors beneath the Hokage Tower were eerily silent as Hiruzen Sarutobi and Tobirama Senju made their way to Danzo's cell. This is a necessary risk. Hiruzen thought, glancing at Tobirama. Danzo's worked with Orochimaru on multiple occasions. If he can help us now, we need every piece of information we can get. If it means getting Tsunade back, then I suppose this must be done. Tobirama had a grim expression. They reached the heavy iron door guarded by two ANBU members. With a nod from Hiruzen, one of them unlocked it, and the door creaked open. Inside, Danzo sat on a simple wooden bench with his limbs in chains. There was a special sealing tag on his bare chest that stopped him from molding chakra. The most eye-catching item was the metal contraption around his neck. Despite the dire situation he was in, Danzo looked calm as if he was meditating. When the door opened, his single eye watched them intently as they entered his cell. Hiruzen. Lord Second, he greeted, his tone measured. There was neither anger nor fear on his face or in his voice. Danzo. I see you're getting comfortable in your new quarters. Hiruzen spoke with a calm expression as he looked at his old rival. I adapt. I always have. You should know that about me, Hiruzen. Danzo replied with half-lidded eyes. The third Hokage crossed his arms and looked at the prisoner. So what brings you two here? The former root commander didn't waste time and asked. Danzo, Tobirama replied evenly. We have some questions for you. Danzo leaned forward slightly. Questions for me? And you two personally came here. This must be serious. All right. What do you want to know? Tobirama crossed his arms. What can you tell us about the current situation in the Land of Earth, specifically regarding their royal court, the ministers and high-ranking officials? Danzo leaned back slightly. The Land of Earth's royal court, huh? Well, to begin with, that court is a web of politics and power plays. The ministers wield significant influence, sometimes more than the daimyo himself. Hiruzen nodded. Any particular figures of note? Danzo's eye narrowed thoughtfully. The royal court is dominated by four key ministers: Minister of War, Minister of Agriculture, Minister of Finance, and Minister of Intelligence. There are others in important positions, of course, but these four are the most influential. They each control significant assets and wield considerable power. Hiruzen nodded. What can you tell us about them individually? Danzo closed his eye for a moment as he recalled the details. The Minister of War is a seasoned general. He oversees the daimyo's military, formulates defense strategies, and the protection of the kingdom. That man is fiercely loyal to the Earth daimyo, but he is also ambitious. Now, the Minister of Agriculture controls the nation's food supply. Because of the rocky terrain of their country, farming is difficult. So he controls major food imports and exports from all over the world. And that makes him indispensable. Hiruzen and Tobirama quickly absorbed the information. The third Hokage wasn't surprised at the intel Danzo had on their rival nation. I know he would have intelligence on the Hidden Stone Village, but I didn't expect he'd keep his eyes on their daimyo as well. Danzo continued, unaware of Hiruzen's thoughts. The Minister of Intelligence is a cunning man. He manages an espionage team, gathers intelligence on rival nations like ours, and monitors both internal and external threats. He always tries to be ahead of his enemies, and he keeps tabs on everyone, including his fellow ministers. And the Minister of Finance? Hiruzen prompted. Danzo kept a calm face, but inwardly he smiled. So that's who you're really after. The finance minister is particularly ambitious, Danzo continued. He's known for his flexible ethics. He's amassed great wealth, some of which can't be accounted for through official channels. He's holding back. Tobirama thought as he analyzed Danzo's expression. He knows more than he's saying. Go on, Hiruzen spoke, wanting Danzo to elaborate. But Danzo's gaze sharpened and he answered with a question of his own. Why the sudden interest in the land of Earth's internal affairs? Hiruzen exchanged a brief look with Tobirama. We've received intelligence suggesting unusual actions involving some of their officials. Who? Danzo asked. The Minister of Finance. He may be involved in unauthorized activities, Hiruzen replied. Danzo raised an eyebrow. Unauthorized activities? Such as missing shipments, unaccounted for resources, Tobirama stated. We believe these anomalies may be linked to larger threats. Danzo tilted his head. And by larger threats, you mean Orochimaru. There was a brief silence. Possibly, Tobirama admitted. So you've come to the same conclusion? Hiruzen acknowledged as he asked Danzo. It wasn't difficult. You two wouldn't have come here at this time with questions if it wasn't related to Orochimaru. Danzo replied. His ambitions are no secret, and the land of Earth would provide ample cover for his experiments. We have reports suggesting the minister is helping Orochimaru build a lab of some sorts. Hiruzen spoke. Danzo leaned back. If that's the case, you're dealing with a dangerous alliance. But there's more. What is it? Hiruzen frowned and asked. The Hidden Stone Village. The third Hokage, Inoki, is wary of the royal court's growing power, Danzo explained. Inoki is a cautious man. He would never allow Orochimaru to operate within his country if he knew about it. So you believe Inoki is unaware of Orochimaru's presence? Tobirama asked. Precisely, Danzo confirmed. The relationship between the Hidden Stone Village and the royal court is delicate. They tolerate each other out of necessity, but there's underlying tension. Hiruzen stroked his beard thoughtfully. This complicates matters. Tobirama crossed his arms and leaned on a nearby wall. Since the subject of our matter is the minister of a rival nation, our options to investigate are limited. Danzo's eye narrowed and he nodded his head. Interrogating a minister of another nation could indeed spark international conflict. Precisely, Hiruzen agreed. We need another way to uncover Orochimaru's location. Tobirama and Hiruzen were keeping a close watch on Danzo with impassive faces. They wanted to know if he would willingly give up information on the warlord in that region. Danzo was silent for a moment before speaking. There is another group, aside from the daimyo's military and the Hidden Stone Shinobi, that possesses secret intelligence, especially regarding clandestine routes and operations. And who would that be? Tobirama asked, his eyes narrowing a fraction. The criminal underworld, Danzo replied. Specifically, a warlord who controls much of the illegal activities in that region. Nothing significant happens without his knowledge. Hiruzen's eyes narrowed. A warlord? Danzo nodded. He's a man of considerable influence. He's bribed, blackmailed, and threatened key figures within the royal court and even the Hidden Stone Village. If anyone knows where Orochimaru's shipments went, it would be him. Tobirama considered this. So a dangerous individual, but maybe a necessary ally in this time of crisis. You've had dealings with him before, Hiruzen stated rather than ask. Yes. He's a very private individual. I've only met him once. Danzo admitted. He's extremely secretive and values his own interests above all else. But he can be reasoned with, for the right price. Well, sometimes. He has a strong temperament. Could he know for certain about Orochimaru's shipments and activities? Tobirama asked. It's highly likely. He would most likely know where that snake is. Danzo replied. Hiruzen considered this. We can't approach the ministers directly without risking conflict. Even our daimyo won't allow that. Yes. Danzo said. But the warlord operates outside official channels. I'm sure he can provide the information you need, for a price. And what price is that? Tobirama asked. 10 million Ryo, Danzo stated plainly. Hiruzen's eyes widened slightly. That's a substantial amount. Danzo shrugged slightly. Information of this caliber doesn't come cheap. It's the cost of doing business in his world. And it's the only way to ensure he'll agree to a meeting and get his cooperation. And you believe we can secure a meeting with him? Hiruzen asked. No. Absolutely not. Danzo smirked and shook his head. He'd never agree to meet any of you. Especially not in such a short time frame. And who will he agree to meet? You? Tobirama scoffed at Danzo's plan. Yes. Danzo affirmed. But I need to go to the land of Earth to meet him personally. Tobirama's expression hardened. You expect us to allow you, a prisoner, to leave the village and enter another nation unsupervised? I wouldn't expect you to let me go unsupervised, Danzo replied calmly. But time is of the essence. Orochimaru won't wait. It's the only way you'll learn the truth. Hiruzen frowned. Allowing you to leave the village, especially into another nation, is a significant risk. Danzo met his gaze steadily. I understand your hesitation, Hiruzen, but time is running out. If you hesitate, it could cost you their lives. Hiruzen glanced at Tobirama. He's right about that. But can we trust him? He sighed. What guarantees do we have that you won't use this opportunity for your own agenda? Tobirama questioned. Danzo was silent for a few moments before he looked at Hiruzen. I fought for what I believed in. I lost. I've accepted my fate. He then turned his gaze to his former teacher. Aside from my words, I don't have anything else to give. But we all know you two don't trust me. If I was in your position, I wouldn't either. It's not the logical thing to do. But to rescue Tsunade and her apprentice, you have to. Danzo's gaze sharpened as he looked at the two Hokages. And because Orochimaru is a threat to our village. Whatever differences we have, the safety of the Hidden Leaf Village comes above all else. The former leader of the Root became silent and he leaned back against the wall. Hiruzen studied his old friend's face. Is he sincere? We'll need to discuss this further, Hiruzen said finally. Danzo nodded and spoke only 3 words. Every moment counts. As Hiruzen and Tobirama turned to leave, Danzo spoke again. Hiruzen. Hiruzen paused at the doorway. Yes? Use my assets to fund this operation, Danzo offered. Consider it a gesture of goodwill. I want to see Orochimaru stopped as much as you do. Hiruzen regarded him silently for a moment. How generous. A tinge of sarcasm appeared in his tone. Leaving the cell, the heavy door clanged shut behind them. Walking down the dim corridor, Tobirama voiced his concerns. This could be a trap. I'm aware, Hiruzen replied. But we have very few options left. Tobirama spoke in a low voice. He's offering a lot. Do you think he has an ulterior motive? Undoubtedly, Hiruzen replied. But he may also be our best chance. If he leaves and becomes a headache, we'll have another enemy. Right now with our focus on saving them, if Danzo does anything, we will be at a disadvantage. Hiruzen sighed. I know Sensei. I haven't forgotten who he is, but if there's a chance to find Orochimaru and rescue Tsunade and Shizune, we have to take it. Back in his cell, Danzo sat alone, contemplating. They're desperate, he mused. And desperation can be useful. He closed his eye, a faint smile playing on his lips. I go out on my own terms, Hiruzen. No one else's. Outside in the dimly lit hallway, the two Kages were still discussing the matter. So we agree to his terms? Tobirama asked. Reluctantly, Hiruzen said. But we'll have to put measures in place to monitor him closely. I'll do it. I've already decided to infiltrate the land of Earth. I'll keep Danzo in my sights at all times. Tobirama suggested. I understand. Hiruzen agreed. And I'll have Jiraiya accompany you two as well. Tobirama nodded. Yes. That's fine. You don't have any problems with this, do you? Tobirama suddenly asked as he looked into a shadowy corner. A couple of seconds later Jiraiya's form emerged and he looked at the two with crossed arms. You're trusting him? After everything that happened. Jiraiya was not happy with the decision that was made. Not entirely, Tobirama interjected. But we have little choice. Danzo has agreed to help, Hiruzen informed them. He provided us with valuable insights into the Earth Royal Court and the Hidden Stone Village. He needs 10 million Ryo to secure information from a warlord, Hiruzen continued. We'll use his seized assets. Jiraiya sighed. Oh, this just keeps getting better and better. Well, I suppose it's better than using village funds. I need you to accompany them, Hiruzen said to Jiraiya. Your presence will ensure that he doesn't stray from the mission. All right, Jiraiya agreed reluctantly. But I still don't like it. Neither do we, Tobirama admitted. But finding Orochimaru and rescuing Tsunade is our priority. The choice was made. The order was given for Danzo's release and soon in the shadows of the village, the former leader of the Root forces was escorted under heavy guard to prepare for the journey. He glanced at the ANBUs surrounding him. They don't trust me. Wise. Time to find out who'll keep me company on my journey. Chapter 352, Rescue Mission, Kakashi and Daichi Departs. Daichi stood outside the Hokage's office, his heart beating harder than usual in his chest despite his special skills. Kakashi placed a reassuring hand on his student's shoulder. Ready? Daichi-sensei asked. The genin took a deep breath and let it out. This is my best and only chance to get to them. Yes, Daichi firmly replied. Kakashi nodded and knocked on the door. From inside, Hiruzen Sarutobi's voice called out, Enter. They stepped into the spacious office. Scrolls and documents were neatly arranged on the Hokage's desk. Jiraiya leaned casually against a bookshelf, his usual jovial expression replaced with a somber look. Ah, Daichi, Kakashi, Hiruzen greeted them warmly. Come in. Daichi gave a respectful short bow. Lord Hokage. Hiruzen gestured to the chairs in front of his desk. Please, have a seat. As they settled in, Hiruzen's gaze softened. There's much to discuss. First, I want to inform you about the events at the 8th base. The genin in the room audibly sighed. I take it the mission was a failure. Jiraiya crossed his arms, glancing at Daichi. It wasn't a simple operation. We didn't succeed, but it wasn't a total failure either. Daichi and Kakashi turned to the Toad Sage. Orochimaru had contingencies in place. The white-haired Sannin spoke. Hiruzen gave a small nod. Well, we didn't find them, but we know where Orochimaru is. He had resurrected 2 formidable shinobi using that forbidden technique. They were powerful adversaries, but Jiraiya and his team managed to defeat them. Daichi's eyes widened. Resurrected shinobi? You mean he really used the reanimation jutsu? Yes, Hiruzen affirmed. They were defeated, and after they were freed from that jutsu, one of them confirmed that Orochimaru's chakra was coming from the land of Earth. And I doubt Orochimaru is aware that we obtained such valuable intel. Your analysis has been invaluable. Shikaku and his team are going over those files as we speak. Daichi felt a surge of determination. Lord Hokage, with your permission, I'd like to go on a rescue mission into the land of Earth. Jiraiya raised an eyebrow. That's a bold request, kid. Hiruzen regarded Daichi thoughtfully. What makes you believe you're suited for this mission? Getting into that nation is not easy. Especially not right now with their heightened border security. And even if you did, how exactly do you intend to find them once you get into the country? Daichi met his gaze unwaveringly. I've been analyzing the shipment movements and patrol diversions in the land of Earth. I've gone through all the intelligence you gave me and memorized them. I've also been up all night studying the geography and topography of Earth country. As for where to search, all signs point to the finance minister's involvement with Orochimaru. I have an idea as to how to narrow down that search field. Lord Hokage, I believe I can locate their base. Or at the very least be of some help. Hiruzen steepled his fingers. The finance minister is a high-ranking official. Accusations against him are serious. What evidence do you have? Even though he learned it from Kakashi, he specifically questioned the boy. Daichi took a deep breath. Multiple shipments from the land of snow, marked as low priority but heavily guarded, have been entering the land of Earth. These shipments avoid the hidden stone village and the capital, disappearing without a trace. Additionally, patrols are diverted every time these shipments arrive. Someone with significant influence is orchestrating this. After going through all the information, I found out it's the finance minister's people. He's involved somehow. I can feel it. After a moment of silence, he continued. My deductions are sound. The patterns are too consistent to be coincidental. I've gone through it multiple times, and I don't believe those shipments were for the daimyo or the hidden stone village. Jiraiya frowned. Even so, infiltrating the land of Earth is dangerous, especially for a genin. Daichi clenched his fists. With all due respect, Lord Jiraiya, I won't stand by while Tsunade-sensei and Shizen are in danger. Jiraiya shook his head. Listen, kid, you don't need to go. I'm already planning to head to the land of Earth. At that moment, Hiruzen interjected. Daichi, Jiraiya, and 2 others are being dispatched to infiltrate the land of Earth. I have complete faith in them. Well, 2 of them anyway. Hiruzen thought as Danzo's face came to his mind. They will handle this mission. They'll find those 2 and rescue them. Daichi looked between them, determination flashing in his eyes. I appreciate that, but I still want to go. I might be able to help in ways others can't. Jiraiya sighed. This isn't a simple task. It's risky, and frankly, you're too young to be involved in this kind of operation. Daichi met his gaze steadily. Age doesn't determine ability. I've been instrumental in gathering all these information. I know the details inside and out. I can be an asset. Besides, you of all people should know not to underestimate me. Hiruzen regarded him thoughtfully. You must understand the gravity of this situation. If you get caught, it could escalate into a diplomatic crisis. Are you prepared for that responsibility? Yes. He's serious about this. Jiraiya studied him for a moment. You realize the risks? I do, Daichi replied. And I also know that time is running out. Orochimaru won't hesitate to harm them after he gets what he wants. Hiruzen sighed softly. Kakashi, you've been quiet. What's your perspective? Kakashi glanced at Daichi before responding. Daichi is resourceful and capable. And during my time in the Umbu, I learned several covert routes into the land of Earth. I can guide him. Hiruzen considered this. If you were to go, it would need to be a secret mission. Officially, we cannot sanction an infiltration into another nation. Understood, Kakashi said. Jiraiya uncrossed his arms and shook his head, a hint of resignation in his posture. You are one stubborn brat, you know that? Daichi smirked, hearing that. Yeah, the old man tells me that a lot. Jiraiya shook his head. I still think this is too risky. Tsunade wouldn't want you to put yourself in harm's way. Daichi looked directly at Jiraiya. If our positions were reversed, if I was in her place, she would do everything she could to try and find me. Even if it means doing something as stupid and dangerous as going into enemy territory on her own. Jiraiya was taken aback. He then shook his head and tried to make the genin see reason. That's different. She's your sensei. And I'm her student. It cuts both ways. Daichi then sighed and calmed himself. He looked at the other Sannin and knew Jiraiya was only looking out for him. I know you're worried about me. But I can't just let this go. I learned so much from her in Shizun. And not just about medical ninjutsu. I owe them a great deal. Hiruzen watched the exchange, a hint of a smile tugging at his lips. He's got a fire in him, just like his sensei. Jiraiya sighed heavily. You're not going to back down, are you? No, Daichi affirmed. Kakashi placed a hand on Daichi's shoulder. We'll proceed with caution. I'll be with him at all times. Hiruzen leaned back in his chair. Very well. But you must understand the gravity of this mission. If you're caught, it could put us at a severe disadvantage. We understand, Kakashi replied. Daichi nodded. We'll be careful and discreet. Jiraiya shook his head. All right then. Just don't expect me to come rescue you if things go south. Daichi grinned slightly. Wouldn't dream of it. Jiraiya rubbed his temples. I suppose there's no stopping you. At least let me provide some support. Hiruzen raised an eyebrow. What do you propose? I have contacts in the land of Earth, Jiraiya said as he looked at his old sensei. I can arrange for some information to be funneled their way, maybe even some local assistance. Kakashi smiled beneath his mask. That would be appreciated. Daichi felt a surge of gratitude. Thank you, Lord Jiraiya. Jiraiya waved a hand dismissively. Yeah. Just don't make me regret this. Hiruzen leaned forward, his gaze shifting between Kakashi and Daichi. What do you plan to do first? Are you going straight to the Earth Country? Daichi glanced at Kakashi before responding. No. We're going to the Fire Capital to meet with the Third Minister, Lord Taji. Kakashi nodded. We believe he might have detailed information on the Finance Minister of the Land of Earth. Given their rival status, it's possible he has insights that could aid us. Hiruzen stroked his beard thoughtfully. A sound strategy. Lord Miyama is well connected and may provide valuable intelligence. You also helped him a great deal during your mission to rescue his nephew. So I believe you would have no trouble getting his assistance. Daichi continued, yeah. If we can learn more about the Finance Minister's dealings, it might help us pinpoint Orochimaru's location. Hiruzen gave a slight nod. I've already sent someone to the Fire Capital to update the daimyo on the situation. Since we're moving against a member of the Earth Royal Court, it's imperative we keep our own daimyo informed. Jiraiya raised an eyebrow. Covering all bases, as usual. Hiruzen smiled faintly. It's necessary. We must proceed carefully to avoid any unintended conflicts. Kakashi glanced at Daichi. Then we'll make the capital our first stop. Hiruzen nodded and opened the desk drawer near him. I have something that'll help you. He took a kunai and gave it to Kakashi. Once your business in the capital comes to an end, use this. Kakashi looked at the kunai and his eyes slightly widened as he saw a teleportation jutsu seal on it. This is... The third Hokage nodded. Yes. Once you use that, someone will come to help you out. He'll take you two into the land of Earth. After you two depart from here, he along with Jiraiya and someone else will be headed for the land of Earth. They'll be able to move fast and get into the country undetected. So by the time you're done gathering information in the capital, they would have made some headway. Daichi, who was listening to the cryptic words, used his observed skill on that kunai and saw that it was a special knife marked with the Flying Thunder God Jutsu seal by the second Hokage. But what he found strange is that the knife was made a few years ago. No way. For a kunai that was made 3 years ago to be marked by the second Hokage. There's only one answer. But who brought him back? The genin was internally shocked as he came to a hypothesis, but he kept a neutral face and kept to himself. Oh, and fair warning. The identity of that person will shock you, but I want you both to know he's an ally. And I'd like for you to keep his existence a secret. The words Hiruzen spoke confirmed Daichi's suspicions, but it confused Kakashi. Lord Hokage, who is he? I'm afraid he told me not to say. He wants to keep his presence a secret from as many as possible. If you figure it out, he'll reveal himself to you. Hiruzen sighed and replied as he remembered his predecessor's order. Hiruzen stood up, signaling the meeting was coming to an end. Prepare to depart as soon as possible. Time is of the essence. Kakashi and Daichi rose from their seats. Understood, they said in unison. As they turned to leave, Jiraiya called out. Hey, Daichi. Daichi paused at the doorway and looked at the Sannin. Yeah? Jiraiya gave him a serious look. Be careful out there. Tsunade wouldn't forgive us if something happened to you. The Hokage agreed and added. Yes. Gather as much information as you can, but prioritize your safety. Having you two getting captured as well is the last thing we want. Daichi nodded earnestly. I'll be careful. And thank you. The genin replied and the two ninjas exited the room. Outside the office, Kakashi glanced at his student. You handled that well. Daichi exhaled, tension easing from his shoulders. I just hope we're making the right decision. Kakashi gave a reassuring nod. We are. We'll find her. Teacher and student duo walked down the corridor. The weight of the mission quickly settled upon them. Thanks for backing me up, Daichi said quietly. Kakashi glanced at him. I believe in you. Besides, you made a compelling argument. Daichi managed a small smile. I meant what I said. I know, Kakashi replied. Let's get ready. Back inside, Hiruzen watched the door close behind them. Jiraiya turned to his teacher. You didn't mention to them that I was going with a reanimated Hokage and an extremely dangerous prisoner. Hiruzen shrugged. No need to burden them with more details. They got enough to focus on. Jiraiya sighed. Perhaps it's for the best. He leaned against the wall and looked outside. Do you really think it's wise to let Daichi go? He's just a kid. He's a shinobi. And a capable one, Hiruzen replied. I suppose the next few days will tell us whether I made the right decision or not. He walked up to the window near Jiraiya and looked down just in time to see Kakashi and his student vanishing into smoke. Despite the somber situation, the white-haired Sannin had a small smile on his face. They've got spirit, I'll give them that. Indeed, Hiruzen agreed. We can only hope it's enough. Jiraiya adjusted his headband. I should get going too. Danzo and Lord Tobirama are probably waiting. Hiruzen turned to him. Be cautious. And keep an eye on Danzo. With him involved, we can't afford any missteps. Will do, Jiraiya replied with a wink. I'll make sure everything stays on track. Thank you. Hiruzen replied earnestly. Good luck, he whispered a few seconds later. As he departed, Hiruzen's gaze turned to the Hokage mountain. So much rests on the shoulders of the young. Perhaps more than they should bear. Daichi and his sensei separated for a short while to get ready for the mission. About 10 minutes later Kakashi found Daichi on top of a building near the gates of the village. The genin stood atop the building and his gaze was on the 4 stone faces on the mountain. Kakashi appeared beside him silently. Taking in the view? Daichi nodded. Yeah. Just picturing something. What is it? The jonin asked. Daichi was silent for a few moments before he spoke. A carving of Lady Tsunade's face right next to the head of the 4th Hokage. Kakashi was surprised by that declaration but otherwise stayed silent. After a few moments of silence, Daichi turned to his teacher. Let's go, sensei. No more time to lose. Kakashi nodded and the two disappeared. Unaware of the challenges ahead, Daichi and Kakashi pressed on, each step bringing them closer to their goal. The genin clenched his fist as he moved through the trees as fast as he could. Hold on, you two. We're coming. Time of departure, 9:07 a.m. Chapter 353, Crossing the Border. Kakashi and Daichi set off along the main road, heading toward the Land of Fire's capital to meet Lord Taji, the 3rd Minister. The journey was quiet, each lost in their own thoughts. Meanwhile, deep within the Hokage Tower's hidden chamber, a small group assembled. Danzo Shimura stood in silence with his usual stoic demeanor. Beside him, the reanimated Tobirama Senju crossed his arms, and Jiraiya was near looking over a large map. The Senju had a black hooded cloak that covered him from head to toe and a blue mask that concealed his face. We need to decide on the fastest route to the Land of Earth, Tobirama stated, his voice firm. Jiraiya nodded. Agreed. With your teleportation jutsu, travel won't be an issue, but we should still consider the safest path. The Land of Rain is out of the question, Jiraiya continued. It's completely closed off. Hanzo the salamander doesn't take kindly to uninvited guests. Danzo glanced at Jiraiya from the corner of his eye, memories flickering in his mind. Last time I was there, things didn't go as planned. The Land of Grass maintains diplomatic relations with both the Hidden Leaf and the Hidden Stone, Danzo said thoughtfully. It would be easier to move through there, but the Hidden Stone village will likely expect that. Tobirama raised an eyebrow. So you suggest we avoid the obvious route? Exactly, Danzo replied. They'll be monitoring the usual paths. We should take an unexpected route to maintain the element of surprise. Jiraiya stroked his chin. That leaves the Land of Waterfall. It's less monitored, and with Lord Tobirama's teleportation, we can navigate the terrain quickly. The 2nd Hokage nodded. Then it's settled. We'll proceed through the Land of Waterfall. Danzo adjusted his cloak. We should prepare for any unforeseen obstacles. Yeah. Jiraiya said. Orochimaru won't make this easy for us. Tobirama stepped forward. Gather close. He placed a hand on Jiraiya's shoulder and then on Danzo's. Hold on tight. In an instant, they vanished from the chamber, leaving only a faint wisp of chakra in their wake. The sudden shift from the familiar walls of the Hokage Tower to the lush surroundings of the Land of Waterfall was almost disorienting. To Jiraiya and Danzo it felt as if the world was moving around them for several seconds. The sound of cascading water filled the air, and the mist from nearby falls cooled their skin. Welcome to the Land of Waterfall, Tobirama announced. Jiraiya looked around appreciatively. You sure know how to make an entrance. He took a breath as he felt nostalgic. The last time I experienced this was with Minato. What an incredible jutsu. Danzo surveyed the area, ever cautious. We should move quickly. Even here, we can't assume we're unnoticed. They began making their way through the dense forest, the canopy above casting dappled shadows along their path. The Land of Waterfall isn't heavily monitored, Jiraiya said, stepping over a fallen log. But you're right, we should still keep a low profile. The 2nd Hokage crouched down and touched the ground with his index and middle finger. The other two stayed quiet as they saw Tobirama get to work. Several seconds later the Senju spoke. I sent several small creatures native to this area. But no humans. No abnormalities. For the moment we're the only ones here. That's a relief. Jiraiya said with a small smile. He knew they'd be able to travel quickly without any interruptions. Let's move. Tobirama gave the order and the three vanished from their position. With Kakashi and Daichi. Kakashi and Daichi moved swiftly along the well-trodden road. As they traveled, villagers and merchants passed by, the hustle and bustle of daily life a stark contrast to the gravity of their mission. After a few hours of travel, Daichi broke the silence. Kakashi-sensei, do you think the finance minister is working with Orochimaru willingly? Kakashi considered the question. That's an important question. It's possible. Power often attracts those who wish to expand it by any means necessary. Orochimaru might have offered him something extremely valuable. Daichi frowned when he heard that. Unaware of his student's thoughts, Kakashi continued. It's also possible that the minister is being threatened. But doing something like that is extremely dangerous. If it ever comes to be known that Orochimaru threatened the minister of a great nation, it would make life extremely difficult for him. Then again Orochimaru might have enticed him with something and is planning to double-cross him. The Jin sighed. So the truth is, we can only make speculations till we know what kind of a guy we're dealing with. Essentially, yes. Daichi frowned slightly. Given his status he could already have everything needed for a great life. It's difficult to understand how someone in such a high position could align themselves with Orochimaru, knowing the kind of person he is. It has to be something really good for all that trouble. Greed, ambition, fear, there are many motivations, Kakashi replied. Our job is to uncover the truth, whatever it may be. They continued on, the landscape gradually shifting as they neared the capital. The sun slowly moved and stood at its apex in the sky. About an hour later, towering buildings began to appear on the horizon. As they approached the city gates, Daichi felt a mix of anticipation and apprehension. It's been a while since I've been here. Kakashi glanced at him. Any memories I should be aware of? Daichi smiled lightly. Just that the food stalls near the central market are top-notch. Kakashi's eye crinkled in amusement. Noted. With Jiraiya and company. Meanwhile, the trio continued their journey through the land of waterfall. The terrain began to shift from dense forests to rocky outcrops as they neared the border of the land of earth. The border is just ahead, Tobirama stated. Danzo paused, his expression thoughtful. Once we cross, we'll need to be even more cautious. The hidden stone village won't take kindly to intruders. Jiraiya adjusted his headband. Good thing we're experts at stealth. Danzo gave him a sidelong glance. Let's hope your confidence is warranted. As they approached the border, Tobirama suddenly raised a hand. Wait. They halted instantly. There's a patrol nearby, he said. 3 shinobi, moving southwest. Jiraiya frowned. Can we avoid them? Tobirama considered for a moment. If we alter our course slightly east, we can bypass them. Let's do that, then. Danzo agreed. Wait. Tobirama suddenly spoke. There's another team coming our way from the east. Less than 2 kilometers. Do they know we're here? Jiraiya asked with a slight frown. Tobirama became silent and touched the ground like before. After a few seconds of silence, he spoke. A 4-man team. Based on their speed, team formation, and body rhythm they're not in a hurry. They're keeping a steady pace. They're unaware of us. The Sannin looked at the disguised Kage in awe. Amazing. To know all that from here. His sensory abilities are incredible. I gotta learn how to do that. Jiraiya said with a grin as he saw Tobirama standing up. Tobirama regarded him for a moment. After this mission is over, I'll give you my notes on the technique. Whether you learn it or not depends on your talent. The Toad Sage had a grin on his face. Well, I've never been one to shy away from a challenge. We should get going. We don't have much time to waste. Danzo interjected before anyone could say anything else. The second Hokage nodded and placed his hands on his teammates' shoulders. The next instant, they vanished without leaving a single evidence behind of their presence there. Seconds later Danzo, Tobirama, and Jiraiya crossed the border into the land of earth. With Kakashi and Daichi. Entering the bustling streets of the capital, they navigated through the crowds until they reached the grand residence of Lord Taji. Guards stood at attention outside the ornate gates. They saw the 2 leaf ninjas heading their way and were on altar. Kakashi and Daichi approached them and the silver-haired Jonin spoke. I'm Kakashi Hatake and this is Daichi Hekima. We're a team from the Leaf Village. We'd like to meet the minister, Lord Taji. Do you have an appointment? One of the guards asked. No. Kakashi replied truthfully. Then I'm afraid I can't let you in. Lord Taji is currently engaged in an important meeting. You will have to wait. The guard replied. This is important. Daichi spoke with a serious, slightly impatient tone and it made the guards frown. Listen kid, rules are rules. We can't just let anyone in without prior authorization. Even if you are Leaf Ninjas. Seeing the guard's stern stance Daichi knew they weren't going to give in easily. Guess it's time to use that. I never thought that little trinket the minister gave would be handy at this time. The Genin was about to take the family seal the minister gave him after saving his nephew, but before he could, someone called out to him. Daichi. I thought that was you. Daichi turned his head and saw Tadashi, one of the main guards, coming towards them with a smile. Captain Tadashi. The two guards at the entrance stood straight and respectfully gave a small bow. Tadashi nodded at his men and his gaze went to the Genin. It's been a while, Daichi. How have you been? Been better. Captain Tadashi, this is my sensei, Kakashi Hatake. Sensei, this is Captain Tadashi. One of the head guards of Lord Taji. Daichi introduced them both to each other. Kakashi nodded at the man and Tadashi nodded back as he recognized the famous copycat ninja. Captain Tadashi. We need to meet Lord Taji. It's very important. The urgency and seriousness in the Genin's voice alerted Tadashi. Of course. Come on in. Tadashi nodded and invited them in. Captain. They don't have a prior appointment. One of the guards said hesitantly. Tadashi's eyes narrowed and he immediately understood the situation. Without saying a word he turned to Daichi and Kakashi and gave a small bow which shocked the two guards. Please forgive the rudeness they have shown. They're new. They don't know who you are. Don't worry about it, Captain Tadashi. I understand. Daichi spoke with a small shrug. You don't have to apologize. They're just doing their job. We get it. Kakashi also waved his hand indicating the matter was over. Thank you. I'll take you to Lord Taji right away. The two guards watched them walk into the mansion with surprise on their faces. Who was that kid? Must be someone important if the captain is taking them directly to Lord Taji. Oh man. Do you think we'd be in trouble for stopping him? Nah. If those two won't push that matter the captain won't pursue it. The other guard waved nonchalantly and they got back to their duty. Tadashi escorted them through manicured gardens to an elegant sitting room adorned with fine art and lavish furnishings. Please wait here. I'll inform the lord of your arrival right away. With those words Tadashi quickly left the room. A few minutes later Lord Tajimima entered, his demeanor warm and welcoming. Behind him were a few guards Daichi met the last time he was there. Daichi! There's my favorite Genin. It's a pleasure to see you again, he exclaimed, extending his hand. Daichi bowed respectfully. Lord Miyama, thank you for seeing us on such short notice. I apologize for interrupting your meeting. Think nothing of it. It's the least I could do for you after all, the minister replied, then turned to Kakashi. And you must be Kakashi Hatake. Kakashi gave a polite nod. A pleasure, Lord Miyama. The minister nodded and turned to the Genin with a smile. You know, you should visit us more often. Leo will be excited to see you. Daichi had a small smile. Yeah, sorry about that. Been a bit busy. The minister chuckled. I can imagine. Please, have a seat, the minister gestured to the comfortable chairs. Now, Tadashi said you wanted to meet with me about something important. Tell me how I can assist you? Kakashi was silent as he let his students take the reins of the conversation. The minister noticed the hesitation on the Genin's face and waited patiently for the boy to speak. Lord Taji. The matter I have to discuss with you is extremely sensitive. The less people know the better. Daichi spoke as he looked at the minister with a knowing look. Tadashi and the other guards standing a few feet behind the minister were surprised. They knew the child was different from other Genin ninjas. So they immediately understood that whatever Daichi had to say to the minister must be of extreme importance. Lord Taji saw the serious expression on the boy's face and waved his hand. Please close the door behind you. And Tadashi, make sure we're not disturbed by anyone. If it were any other Genin team the guards would have hesitated or made a slight protest, but since they knew Daichi they immediately left and soon the room was sealed with only the three of them inside. What's this about Daichi? Taji asked. I need all the information you have on the finance minister of the land of Earth, assuming you have them. Taji's brows slightly furrowed. He couldn't think of a scenario where Daichi and that man would cross paths. Why? Orochimaru kidnapped my sensei, Lady Tsunade. And I believe the finance minister of the Earth Royal Court might have had some hand in this. Daichi's words shocked the minister. It took him a few seconds to process that information. Then what? Time, 2:12 p.m. Chapter 354, A Convincing Bait in the Land of Earth. The afternoon sun hung high in the sky as Danzo, Jiraiya, and Tobirama stood atop a rugged cliff overlooking the desolate expanse of the land of Earth. Tiny rocks whipped through the air, carried by the infamous rock rain that swept over the mountain range from the north. The barren landscape stretched out before them, a sea of jagged rocks and dusty plateaus. Tobirama closed his eyes briefly, extending his sensory perception across the terrain. After a moment, he opened them. There's no one near us, he confirmed. We have a few minutes to plan our next move. Jiraiya shielded his eyes from the harsh sunlight. This place is as unwelcoming as ever, he muttered. Danzo surveyed the rocky landscape, his expression unreadable. The environment hasn't changed since the last time I was here. It seems time hasn't softened this land's edges, nor its peoples. He turned to the others. It won't be easy to draw Sanada Ryoso out of hiding. He rarely leaves his base camp. Jiraiya raised an eyebrow. Sanada Ryoso. That name rings a bell. He's the third son of the Minister of Infrastructure, Danzo explained with the other two closely paying attention. Despite his name meaning the virtuous third, he's anything but ruthless, lawless, cunning, and ambitious. His father is the minister in charge of overseeing construction projects, infrastructure development and maintenance of roads, bridges and buildings of the country. That gave his son access to valuable intel. Sanada learned the entire terrain of the country like the back of his hand along with learning several other precious secrets. And when the time was right he left his family to amass his own power using this intelligence. Soon he became a warlord. Tobirama nodded thoughtfully. And because he's the son of a minister, he's been allowed to operate freely, am I right? Exactly, Danzo replied. He maintains a certain order among the chaotic elements here, which benefits those in power. Jiraiya crossed his arms. So, how do we get to him? Danzo looked out over a narrow pass winding through the mountains. I know a route where Sanada's men often patrol. If I get caught there alone, carrying the scroll with 10 million Ryo, they'll take me directly to him. Jiraiya frowned. You're suggesting we let you get captured on purpose? Yes, Danzo affirmed. It's the most direct way to reach him. Tobirama's eyes narrowed. You'll be alone and vulnerable. I can handle myself, Danzo replied calmly. And, I doubt I'd be alone. You be following me won't you Lord Second? Tobirama merely crossed his arms and answered the obvious question with silence. Danzo continued averting his gaze. Besides, with that amount of money, they'll be more interested in taking me to Sanada than harming me. Jiraiya shook his head. I don't like it. What's to stop them from just killing you and taking the money? Danzo met his gaze steadily. Sanada's men are greedy but also loyal. They'll see more value in presenting me to their leader. Especially if they know my identity. Tobirama considered this. I'll follow you discreetly. If anything goes wrong, I'll intervene. Danzo gave a slight nod. I understand. Jiraiya sighed. Alright, but how do you plan on making Sanada answer your questions once you're in front of him? You'll be surrounded by enemies and based on what you said about him, I doubt he'd just tell you what you want to know. Danzo's lips curled into a very faint smile. I have a plan. He glanced at Tobirama. With his abilities, executing it won't be a problem. Jiraiya raised an eyebrow. Care to share the details? Danzo paused before speaking. The less you know, the better. But rest assured, it's effective. Always so secretive, Jiraiya thought, suppressing his irritation. Fine. Just don't mess this up. Tsunade and Shizen's lives are on the line. Danzo adjusted his cloak. I'm aware of what's at stake here, boy. Jiraiya's eyes narrowed and he clenched his fist as he looked at the crippled old man. Even after losing everything he's still so arrogant. The Toad Sannin exhaled slowly and calmed himself. In that case, I'll split off from you too. I have contacts who might have information on the finance minister. I'm going to check up on what he's been up to for the last few months. Plus, I'll also get an update on the Hidden Stone Village's activities. Tobirama looked at him. Be cautious. The Hidden Stone Shinobi are not to be underestimated. We need to make sure they never know about us being here. Jiraiya grinned. Don't worry about me. I didn't earn my reputation by being careless. I won't leave a trace. Danzo glanced between them. We should move. They descended the rocky slope, each step sending small stones tumbling ahead of them. The wind whipped around them, carrying the howl of the barren land. At the base of the slope, they reached a fork in the path. This is where we part ways, Jiraiya said, adjusting his pack. Danzo nodded. We'll rendezvous at the Tsukiyama village in a few hours. It's a small village a few hours from the Earth capital. Danzo took a small map from his sleeve and gave it to Jiraiya. Got it, Jiraiya replied. He gave them a two-fingered salute. Stay safe. You as well, Tobirama said. As Jiraiya disappeared down the left path, Danzo and Tobirama turned to the right. Time, 1:31 p.m. After walking in silence for a few minutes, Tobirama spoke after listening to Danzo's idea. Are you certain about this plan? Danzo's gaze remained fixed ahead. It's the most efficient method to get him to give us what we need. He'll need to see a show of force from me. So unless he feels that his life is in danger he won't give up that information. He's as confident as ever, Tobirama thought. Very well. I'll keep my distance but stay close enough to assist if needed. That's acceptable, Danzo replied. They continued until they reached a narrow canyon. Danzo stopped and turned to Tobirama. From here, I'll proceed alone. Tobirama nodded but he also gave him a warning. Danzo. Keep in mind that Tsunade's life is at risk. If you try anything that prevents me from saving her dash. I know. You don't have to threaten me. I understand how valuable she is to you and the village. Danzo kept a calm tone but he was angry and at the same time slightly sad. The antagonistic attitude his former sensei was showing him had hurt Danzo on some level. He began walking forward, his footsteps steady and unhurried. Tobirama watched him go, then leaped effortlessly onto a high ledge, masking his presence. Danzo entered the canyon, the walls rising steeply on either side. Shadows danced along the rocky surfaces as the sun slowly began its descent. The Leaf Elder moved through the rocky terrain for nearly 30 minutes, his senses alert as he navigated the winding paths. The wind howled between the jagged rocks, carrying tiny pebbles that clattered against the stone. He moved with purpose, yet appeared casual, bait for those he knew were watching. They're here, he thought, sensing the subtle shifts in the air around him. Suddenly, 4 figures emerged from the shadows, encircling him. They were rugged men, clad in worn armor and bearing the insignia of Sanada Ryoso's forces. Well, look what we have here, one of them sneered. A lone traveler in dangerous territory. Danzo's eyes flickered over them, recognizing their affiliation. Sanada's men. Right on schedule. He kept his expression neutral, giving no indication of recognition. Just passing through, he replied calmly. Passing through, huh, another chuckled darkly. You must be lost. These paths ain't meant for the likes of you. Danzo met their gaze steadily. I'll be on my way, then. Not so fast, the first man growled, stepping closer. Hand over your belongings, and maybe we'll let you leave in one piece. Without a word, Danzo turned and bolted down a narrow pass between the rocks. After him, the leader shouted. The men gave chase, surprised by his sudden flight. Danzo darted through the labyrinth of stone. Despite his old age, his movements were swift and controlled. I need to make this convincing. They have to believe they're genuinely chasing me. He could hear their footsteps pounding behind him, shouts echoing off the canyon walls. As he reached an open stretch, he formed quick hand seals. Wind style, vacuum bullet. He exhaled sharply, sending compressed air bullets toward his pursuers. The blasts kicked up dust and debris, forcing the men to scatter. He's a shinobi, one of them yelled. Spread out and flank him. Using the chaos to his advantage, Danzo veered left, scaling a steep incline with practiced ease. The wind whipped around him, and loose rocks tumbled under his feet. The men were persistent, their knowledge of the terrain helping them keep pace. Good. Let them think they have the upper hand. He reached a plateau and paused briefly to catch his breath. The men were closing in, their silhouettes appearing over the ridge. One threw a kunai, which Danzo narrowly dodged. You're only making this harder on yourself, a voice taunted. Danzo continued running, leading them deeper into the maze of rocky outcrops. The terrain became more treacherous, with sudden drops and narrow ledges. He leapt across a gap, landing smoothly on the other side. The chase wore on for 10 intense minutes. Danzo could feel their frustration mounting. Just as he intended, they were becoming more determined to catch him. Suddenly, he skidded to a halt. Ahead of him loomed a sheer cliff face, too high to climb quickly without exposing more of his abilities. Nowhere left to run, one of the men shouted triumphantly. He turned to find himself surrounded. For more of Sanada's men had joined the chase, cutting off any escape routes. They closed in, weapons drawn. Danzo's expression remained impassive. It appears you caught me. One of them sneered. You gave us quite the run, old man. Another stepped forward, cracking his knuckles. Time to pay for that. Before he could react, a fist connected with his stomach. Danzo doubled over, more for show than from actual pain. They didn't hold back, landing punches and kicks to subdue him. He allowed himself to fall to one knee, hand raised in mock surrender. Check his belongings, the leader ordered. They rifled through his pouch and pulled out the scroll containing the 10 million ryo. Well, what do we have here? One mused, unrolling the scroll to reveal the money. Eyes widened all around. Jackpot. Why is a lone shinobi carrying this kind of cash? Another questioned. Does it matter? Someone else retorted. With this kind of haul, we don't need to bring him back. Agreed, the leader said, drawing a blade. Let's finish him and split the loot. Wait, a voice called out. A man with a scar across his eye stepped forward, scrutinizing Danzo's face. I recognize him. The others looked at him skeptically. What are you talking about? This is Danzo Shimura, he said. An elder from the Hidden Leaf Village. Murmurs rippled through the group. The Danzo Shimura? You sure? Isn't he just some old man? The scarred man nodded. No doubt about it. I saw his face last time he came to see the boss. It's him. The leader hesitated, lowering his blade slightly. If that's true, he's worth more alive than dead. Exactly, the scarred man affirmed. We bring him to Master Sanada. He'll know what to do. A few grumbled, eyeing the scroll greedily. But what about the money? We can still hand that over, the leader decided. It'll earn us favor, and maybe a bigger reward. They bound Danzo's hands tightly behind his back. One leaned in close. Don't try anything funny, or we'll make you regret it. Danzo remained silent, his expression stoic. Just as I expected. Once I'm done with your leader, I'll make sure to kill all of you. Move out, the leader commanded. They prodded Danzo forward, guiding him through the winding paths toward their base camp. Time, 2:17 p.m. High above, hidden among the rocks, Tobirama observed the scene with keen eyes. He allowed himself to be captured. Now it's my turn to watch over him. The wind picked up, swirling dust around the departing group. Tobirama moved swiftly and silently, keeping to the shadows as he followed from a distance. As they made their way deeper into Sonata's territory, the terrain became more rugged. One of the men glanced back at Danzo. What's an old leaf shinobi doing all the way out here? Danzo met his gaze but said nothing. Doesn't matter, the leader interjected. Master Sonata will get the answers. They pressed on, unaware of a very dangerous ninja trailing them. Chapter 355, Gaining an Advantage. Land of Fire, Capital, Time, 2:17 p.m. Daichi and Kakashi sat across from Lord Taji in the spacious room. Sunlight filtered through the tall windows, casting a warm glow on the polished wooden table between them. Daichi explained the events that had led him and his sensei to the minister. So, Lady Tsunade has been abducted. Lord Taji said, his voice heavy with concern. And you believe Orochimaru is hiding in the land of Earth under the protection of their finance minister? He understood the turmoil that would fall upon the two great nations in the coming days if this matter was not handled properly. Daichi nodded solemnly. Yes, Lord Taji. We have credible intelligence suggesting as much. Lord Taji rubbed his forehead as he could already imagine the headache he and the others in the court would have to deal with in the next few days. Orochimaru's presence there poses a significant threat, not just to you or Lady Tsunade but potentially to the balance between our nations. Kuroda Michinori. I knew he was ambitious and on occasions used underhanded tactics to get his way, but this. Lord Taji leaned back in his chair, fingers steepled thoughtfully. This is grave news indeed. If word of this gets out, it could plunge our countries into turmoil. A known criminal colluding with a royal official. This will shake the land of Earth. Kakashi nodded and spoke. That's why we're here. We need any information you can provide on Minister Kuroda, his allies, enemies, territories, psychological profile, assets, family connections. Anything that might help us locate Orochimaru and rescue Tsunade without escalating tensions. Lord Taji rose from his seat. I understand the urgency. Follow me to my library. I keep an extensive record on foreign officials. They would come in handy during wartime or when we need an edge in high-level diplomatic negotiations. They followed him through a set of ornate doors into a vast library. Tall shelves stretched up to the ceiling, filled with scrolls and bound volumes. A large desk sat near a window overlooking the city, scattered with documents and maps. Impressive, Kakashi remarked, his eyes scanning the room. Lord Taji gave a modest smile. Knowledge is power, after all. He moved to a shelf and began pulling out several scrolls. Here we are. Information on Kuroda Michinori, the finance minister of the land of Earth. Daichi accepted the scrolls gratefully. Thank you. They unrolled the first scroll on the desk. Detailed accounts of Kuroda's political maneuvers, business dealings, and personal life were meticulously documented. Kuroda is a shrewd and calculating man, Lord Taji explained. He has a reputation for being ruthless in his pursuit of power and wealth. Daichi traced a finger over a map highlighting Kuroda's territories. These regions here, are they significant? Yes, Lord Taji nodded and replied. They are rich in mineral resources. Controlling them has given Kuroda considerable economic leverage. Kakashi pointed to another section of the scroll. It mentions conflicts with other ministers. Does he have any notable adversaries? Lord Taji nodded. Yes. His primary rival is the Minister of Intelligence, Ishida Masato. They've clashed over land and resources for years. Their relationship is less than amicable. Daichi exchanged a glance with Kakashi. That could be useful. Indeed, Kakashi agreed. If we can understand the dynamics between them, we might find a way to exploit it. Daichi turned back to Lord Taji. Do you have more information on Minister Ishida? Certainly, Lord Taji said, moving to another shelf. He retrieved additional scrolls and laid them out. Ishida is just as ambitious as Kuroda but operates differently. He's more subtle, preferring to gather intelligence and use it to his advantage rather than overt displays of power. Daichi absorbed the information, his mind piecing together the intricate web of politics within the land of Earth's royal court. If we can leverage the rivalry between Kuroda and Ishida, perhaps we can find a weakness. Kakashi studied a scroll detailing Kuroda's family. A particular detail caught his attention. It says here that Kuroda has a son studying in the land of snow and a daughter who manages some of his business interests. That's correct, Lord Taji confirmed. His family is very much involved in his affairs, though they tend to keep a low profile. Kakashi glanced at Daichi and the Jin and understood the message. His son must be how the minister or his people make contact in the land of snow while avoiding suspicion. Daichi furrowed his brow. Any known weaknesses? Personal vices? Anything that might make him vulnerable? Lord Taji sighed and shook his head. No. Kuroda is notoriously disciplined. However, his ambition could be his downfall. He's been known to overreach in his quest for power. Kakashi leaned over the desk, examining a detailed map of the land of Earth. The territories controlled by Kuroda and Ishida border each other here. Tensions must be high in these regions. Very much so, Lord Taji replied. There have been skirmishes, though both sides try to keep them quiet to avoid drawing the daimyo's ire. It wouldn't look good for the daimyo if his own people are fighting each other openly. Daichi tapped the map thoughtfully. If Orochimaru is hiding within Kuroda's territories, perhaps Ishida would be interested in that information. Kakashi looked at him sharply. You're suggesting we inform Ishida? Not directly, Daichi clarified. But maybe we can use that angle to create a distraction or gain access. Lord Taji regarded them seriously. You're treading a dangerous path. Playing one minister against another could have unpredictable consequences. We're aware of the risks, Kakashi assured him. But our priority is rescuing Tsunade and stopping Orochimaru. Lord Taji stroked his chin and sat in a nearby chair. Then I would advise against alerting any official in the land of Earth. At least until you save your teacher. If they get to Lady Tsunade before you, then they will capture her to use as leverage. A few seconds later he spoke as if thinking over something. Although she might be in their custody, she and her apprentice will be safe. I suppose that's the only advantage I can think of. Kakashi raised an eyebrow as he looked at the minister. Seeing the questioning look, Taji explained. They know how important Lady Tsunade is to us. So they won't kill her. They'll use her for negotiations, but that process will be long. It might take weeks or even months to get her released. And that's not even counting what the Tsuchikage would do. Daichi shook his head and immediately disagreed with that. No. That's not an option. We have to save her as soon as possible. Lord Taji nodded slowly. Very well. I can provide you with detailed profiles on all the members of the Earth Royal Court. Understanding the broader political landscape may aid your mission. That would be immensely helpful, Daichi said gratefully. For the next hour, they delved into the wealth of intelligence provided. Scrolls and documents covered the table as they absorbed details about alliances, rivalries, economic interests, and personal histories of the key players in the land of Earth. Daichi committed all the information in front of him to memory, his keen mind processing the complex relationships. The ministers are like pieces on a shogi board. If we move carefully, we can navigate through them without causing a larger conflict. Kakashi closed the scroll and looked at Daichi. We've gathered a substantial amount of information. Do you feel prepared? Daichi met his gaze with determination. Yeah. This will give us a significant advantage. Lord Taji watched them with a mix of admiration and concern. I must say, your dedication is impressive. But please, exercise caution. The land of Earth is not forgiving to outsiders, especially shinobi from the Hidden Leaf. We understand the risks, Kakashi replied. And we appreciate your assistance. Lord Taji placed a hand on Daichi's shoulder. I remember when you saved my nephew's life. You have a good heart. And I owe Lady Tsunade as much as I owe you. I will pray for your success and safe return. Daichi offered a sincere smile. Thank you, Lord Taji. Your support means a great deal. As they prepared to depart, Lord Taji handed Kakashi a sealed envelope. This contains letters of introduction to some of my contacts within the land of Earth. They may be willing to help, discreetly. But try to use them as a last resort. Cultivating assets in a hostile nation is not an easy thing to do. Kakashi accepted the envelope with a respectful bow. Thank you. Your generosity is greatly appreciated. We'll only use this if we have no other option. One more thing. The sudden serious tone in Lord Taji's voice stopped the two ninjas. The minister looked at the two, but his eyes were mainly on Daichi. You should know, I have to inform Lord Ryuga of your visit and what you wanted. This matter isn't something that can be kept from him. You understand, right Daichi? The genin nodded. Yes, I understand Lord Taji. You have your duties to follow. The minister looked troubled as he gazed at the genin. Daichi smiled as he looked at the man. You don't need to look so conflicted. Lord Hokage had already sent someone to inform the daimyo of the situation. And I knew you'd be obligated to inform him of our visit even before we came here. So I completely understand. The minister smiled hearing that. Thank you Daichi. The two leaf ninjas made their way to exit. Take care, Lord Taji said as the three made their way to the door. And may fortune favor you. It was 3:30. The sun cast a warm glow over the capital. Its streets bustled with activity. Kakashi and Daichi walked briskly through the city's winding streets, heading toward the outskirts. As they passed through the gates, Daichi glanced back at the towering structures of the capital fading into the distance. Do you think involving the Minister of Intelligence is the right move? He asked his sensei quietly. Kakashi considered the question. It's a calculated risk. If we can use their rivalry to our advantage without getting caught in the crossfire, it could provide the opening we need. Daichi was not in complete agreement with that plan. But it could also be a huge risk. Like Lord Taji said, if anything goes wrong then we might actually be pushing Tsunade and Shizen out of the frying pan and into the fire. Kakashi sighed and nodded thoughtfully. I know. It's only a suggestion. We'll make a decision after we discuss this matter with the others. We also have to be careful not to escalate tensions between the nations. Lord Hokage has trusted us with this. Our goal is to complete the mission with as little collateral impact as possible. They continued along the road, the landscape gradually shifting from the cultivated lands surrounding the capital to wilder, more rugged terrain. As they walked, Daichi pulled out a notebook and began reviewing the key points from their briefing. Kuroda's main base of operations is here, he said, pointing to a spot on the small map he drew. If Orochimaru is with him, that's likely where we'll find them. Kakashi leaned over the boy's shoulder and looked at the information noted down. We need to consider how to get close without alerting their forces. Daichi looked up at his teacher. What if we posed as emissaries from the Minister of Intelligence? It might give us a plausible reason to be there. Kakashi raised an eyebrow. That could work, but it's very risky. If we're discovered, it could spark an international incident. I'm not well regarded in the land of Earth. Especially with the Hidden Stone Village. The silver-haired Jonin said with a sigh. Daichi nodded. I guess we'll plan our next step after joining up with the others, huh? Yeah. Kakashi nodded and bit his thumb. He made several seals and slammed his palm to the ground. Poof! Yo Kakashi. Knew you'd call me soon. Packin'. Have you rested? Yeah. The ninja dog nodded and looked at his summoner. So any headway into finding Lady Tsunade? Some. I need you to take this scroll to Lord Hokage. It's the updated intelligence on the officials of the land of Earth. Kakashi gave a small scroll which Packin grabbed with his teeth. Hearing the name of the foreign nation, Packin slightly frowned. He looked at the one-eyed Jonin from the corner of his eyes. You're going there, huh? Yeah. Kakashi nodded. Good luck. You too, Daichi. With those words, the ninja dog vanished in the direction of the Leaf Village. Are you going to use that? Daichi asked, referring to the special knife the Hokage gave Kakashi. Yeah. No point in wasting time. I wonder who's going to pick us up. With that, Kakashi tossed the kunai with the teleportation jutsu seal on a nearby rock. They waited for several seconds and no one showed up. Isn't someone supposed to show up? Daichi asked his teacher. Kakashi was also flummoxed. Yeah. That knife has the teleportation jutsu seal marked on it. The Jonin relaxed and decided to wait. Whoever it is must be in the land of Earth doing something important. Let's wait a while. I'm sure they'll come pick us up soon. Daichi nodded and went under a nearby tree to meditate. After a minute into meditation, Daichi received a message from his clone disguised as Monkey D. Dragon from the land of Earth. I'm near the finance minister's mansion. I'm going in to interrogate him. The real Daichi didn't show any changes in his facial expression. Do it. But make sure to keep him alive. Depending on what his relationship with Orochimaru is, we'll proceed. Keep me updated. As the real Daichi and Kakashi waited in the forest outside the fire capital for their ride, two big incidents were simultaneously taking place in two different locations in the land of Earth. Time, 3:35 p.m. Chapter 356, Dragon Makes a Move. Land of Earth, a few hours ago. Daichi's shadow clone moved silently through the desolate terrain of the land of Earth. The vast rocky landscape provided ample cover for the Leaf Ninja. Clad in a dark green cloak and a dragon mask, he adopted the persona of Monkey D. Dragon. The disguise was essential, anonymity was his greatest ally here. The wind is fierce today, he thought, feeling the small rocks carried by the infamous rock rain pelting against his cloak. Perfect for masking my movements. He advanced cautiously, his senses heightened. Ahead, he spotted a patrolling hidden stone shinobi, moving alone along a narrow path. Assessing the situation, he decided to proceed. Waiting for the opportune moment, the clone darted forward, catching the shinobi off guard. Before the ninja could react, Daichi struck swiftly at a pressure point, stunning the man. The disguised Daichi made contact with the man's head and 3 seconds later his chakra absorption skill activated. Skill chakra absorption has activated. Skill mind drain has activated. 2 more seconds later his mind drain skill activated. In less than a minute the lone hidden stone shinobi who was unable to defend himself, collapsed and became unconscious. I need as much chakra as possible when I get to the minister. No doubt he'll have protection. Need my tank near full when I get to him. Dragon thought. He felt the replenishment from the absorbed chakra and mana energy. Every bit counts. Avoiding larger patrols, he continued this pattern, only engaging when he was certain of a quick victory. His objective was clear, gather information and strength without drawing unnecessary attention. After hours of meticulous movement and information gathering, the clone finally reached a vantage point overlooking an opulent mansion nestled within a secluded valley. So that's Kuroda Michinori's residence, he mused. The finance minister doesn't shy away from displaying his wealth. Before the clone did anything else, he immediately informed his original counterpart who was currently in the land of fire. I'm near the finance minister's mansion. I'm going in to interrogate him. Do it. But make sure to keep him alive. Depending on what his relationship with Orochimaru is, we'll proceed. Keep me updated. Came the reply from his creator. Getting the go-ahead, the disguised clone ended the communication array and focused on the large building in front of him. The mansion was expansive, surrounded by well-manicured gardens and high walls adorned with intricate carvings. Guards were stationed methodically around the perimeter, their movements disciplined and routes overlapping to minimize blind spots. After suppressing his chakra as much as possible, Dragon activated his mana cloak skill. He concealed himself, becoming virtually undetectable to the naked eye. The disguised clone settled into a concealed position with a clear view of the main entrance. Time to gather some intel. Daichi noted the name and face of another person he needed to prioritize. He used his observe skill on everyone who was in his field of view and memorized their details, and used Mana Scout skill to figure out the number of people inside the mansion. It took a few moments for him to finally process all the information together. 50 guards in total, 18 maids and servants inside. The security is tight but not impenetrable. If I can find a pattern or a weak point in their rotations, I might be able to slip inside easier. But they become a headache if they interfere with my interrogation. I'll have to put them to sleep for a while. His eyes scanned the perimeter, noting the positions of the security seals that Miyako likely maintained. I need to avoid triggering those barriers. Perhaps if I can time it right when she's on the opposite side of the grounds. A movement caught his attention, a servant exiting a side door, carrying a tray of what appeared to be tea and snacks. If I had to sneak in, then staff entrances could be a potential way in, he considered. But with Haruka guarding that area, it's risky. He continued to watch as the guards moved along their designated paths. He also read their lips and listened to their conversations. So the minister and his wife are inside, but his children are currently in the daimyo mansion, huh? Good. I can't waste any more time. I need to make my move now. Having confirmed the minister's presence, Daichi knew he had to act swiftly and silently. First, eliminate the sensory and high-perception guards to prevent any alarms. He had been observing for nearly 30 minutes, memorizing every patrol route and timing. He formed 4 shadow clones, each identical in appearance, cloaked in dark green with a dragon mask concealing their faces. They nodded to one another, understanding the plan without words. Positioning themselves at the cardinal points. East, west, north, and south, they prepared for a coordinated strike. Let's begin. Daichi activated his mana body armor skill, which concealed his chakra signature and even his breath. Moving like a phantom, he slipped through the first layer of defenses, bypassing the sensory barriers undetected. On the eastern side, one of his clones approached Miyako Tanaka, the sensory ninja responsible for maintaining the detection seals. She stood near a large oak tree, her eyes closed as she focused on the chakra network surrounding the mansion. Target acquired. The clone moved swiftly, closing the distance in an instant. Before Miyako could sense anything amiss, he struck. Gah, she gasped, eyes snapping open. Sleep, the clone whispered, placing a hand on her shoulder. Ninja art, body freeze jutsu. Miyako's body stiffened, her limbs locking in place. Panic flickered in her eyes. What's happening? I can't move. I have to alert the others. But before she could make do on her plan, she fell victim to a strong sleeping genjutsu. 5 seconds later, her chakra and mental energy began to rapidly drain, and in less than a minute her eyes fluttered closed as she lost consciousness. One down. Dragon made sure to check his mini-map to see if the others realized anything amiss. He noted their movements and understood that the other guards were unaware that Sensory Ninja was out of commission. Meanwhile, on the western side, another clone targeted Hajime Sato. He was alert, scanning the surroundings diligently. The clone transformed into a small bird that was native to that area and perched on a nearby branch. Hajime sensed a slight movement and glanced up. Just a bird. Since it was a common spectacle, he paid it no mind. As he resumed his patrol, the clone reverted to his original form behind him without making a single sound. With precise timing, he grabbed Hajime's shoulder. Hajime froze, as seals quickly covered his body. A mere second later he felt another hand behind his head and felt electricity coursing through his body. The guard was paralyzed and unable to do anything to his attacker. Shush. It'll be over soon, the clone whispered. Before Hajime could react, his strength ebbed away. What's happening? My chakra. His mind was becoming foggy and soon he collapsed with the clone catching him silently. Dragon dragged the unconscious body into a shadowed alcove and ensured he was hidden from view. That's 2. On the northern front, the third clone faced Haruka Ishida. She was no easy target, her keen senses made her a formidable opponent. The clone knew stealth alone wouldn't suffice. He observed her from a distance. She's disciplined. I'll need a distraction. Spotting a small pebble, he infused it with chakra and flicked it toward a distant bush. The rustling caught Haruka's attention. Who's there? She called out, hand resting on the hilt of her blade. Taking advantage of the brief diversion, the clone moved behind her. But Haruka wasn't so easily fooled. I knew it, she spun around, drawing her sword in a fluid motion. The clone narrowly avoided the slash. Impressive, he acknowledged. An intruder, she stated coldly. Identify yourself. Just passing through, he replied cryptically. Haruka didn't hesitate, launching into a series of swift attacks. The clone evaded with equal skill, but time was of the essence. I can't afford to drag this out. He seized an opening and counterattacked. He weaved 3 seals and then caught Haruka's hands in an iron grip. Less than a second later he harshly stepped on her right foot, stopping her from moving anywhere, and at the same time spit a green bubble on her face. Ninja art, venomous spit bomb. Dragon held her in place as his toxic jutsu instantly took effect. Green mist exploded out of the bubble and was absorbed into the woman's body through her nostrils, skin, and mouth. Upon impact, that jutsu will explode into a small burst of green toxic vapor. It will cling to your body and instantly disrupt your chakra. That toxin will quickly seep through your skin and cause pain and paralysis. Best part, you won't even be able to make a sound or mold chakra for anything. Purple lines appeared on the woman's face and spread across her body. Seconds later 2 other jutsus activated and her physical and mental energy were being drained. Skill Mind Drain has activated. Skill Chakra Absorption has activated. Haruka felt her movements slow down. Ooh-is. She fought against the paralysis and tried to resist the pain, but it was futile. I'd say you're strong, the clone spoke softly. But the truth is, you're really not. You're just another pebble on the road. When you wake up, be grateful to me for sparing your life. You have sense-killing intent. Even through the pain and tears she glared at him with great hatred. Just looking into her eyes Daichi understood what she wanted to say. Who are you? A shadow, he answered. Dragon watched as the woman fell to her knees, struggling to stay awake. Her hand lost its grip on her sword, but before it fell to the ground, Daichi caught it with one arm. He still kept absorbing her chakra and mana with his other hand without any mercy. Don't worry. That poison isn't lethal. It'll work its way out of your system in a few hours. Her vision blurred, and soon consciousness slipped away. The clone caught her before she fell, laying her gently on the ground. 3 down. The shadow clones used Jinjutsu, mana skills, surprise attack under the power of invisibility and body freeze jutsu to take down the most crucial and strongest of the guards stationed outside the manor. Soon over a dozen ninjas protecting the minister was down. All key targets have been neutralized. The clones regrouped mentally, sharing their progress. Proceeding to secondary targets. On the southern side, the 4th clone was going to deal with Eiji Watanabe and Daichi Nakamura. They were engaged in a quiet conversation. Did you hear about the new orders? Daichi Nakamura asked. Yeah. More overtime. Eiji grumbled. Just what I needed. The clone approached, transforming into Hajime Sato. There you two are, he called out. Hajime? Eiji turned. What's up? Change of plans, the disguised clone said. We're needed at the front gate. Again? Guard Daichi sighed. Fine. As they began walking, the clone positioned himself behind them. Now. He simultaneously tapped their shoulders. Lightning strings. Multiple strings of lightning chakra instantly attached to the 2 guards. They were completely unprepared for the sudden attack and were paralyzed. The lightning jutsu vanished, but before they could counter-attack, their chakra was quickly beginning to vanish. Skill Mind Drain has activated. Skill Chakra Absorption has activated. He's draining my chakra. But this realization didn't help as paralysis curse seals spread from Dragon's hands. Wah! Both guards felt an abrupt weakness. Sorry, the clone said as they collapsed. He dragged their unconscious forms behind a nearby shed. Dragon, who was taking down the guards in the northern area, suddenly stood still as he sensed the approach of 2 guards from the other side. It's been over a dozen minutes since we began. They must have noticed the disappearance of their colleagues, or at the very least feel something's off. He immediately formed several seals. Jinjutsu Twisted Dominion. Daichi's chakra instantly and perfectly entrapped the 2 new guards as soon as they were in his sight. The Twisted Dominion Jinjutsu muted the target's senses to a great degree. They would lose their sense of touch, hearing, sight, sound, balance, and sense of time. To the 2 guards it was as if they were walking normally one second and the next, they were falling into an infinite dark abyss. With their mind tricking them into feeling a cold paralyzing sensation. To Dragon, a second after his Jinjutsu took effect, the guards collapsed to the ground, their body jerking every so often, subconsciously fighting the unnatural sensation. Their eyes were unfocused and drool dripped from their lips. Dragon, without wasting time, immediately drained their chakra and mana energies. Once they were completely drained, he cancelled his Jinjutsu. It's a nasty Jinjutsu I took from Danzo's archive. It's your bad luck that you fell victim to it. Inside the mansion, the remaining guards were unaware of the infiltration. Daichi moved through the hallways, avoiding servants and lesser guards. When necessary, he would incapacitate them using minimal force. A young maid rounded the corner, nearly bumping into him. Daichi, still cloaked, pressed against the wall. She can't see me, but better to avoid any chance of detection. She hesitated, sensing something amiss. It was more of an instinct. Is someone there? Using mana puppetry, Daichi projected a soothing thought. It's just your imagination. She blinked, confusion fading. I must be tired. She continued on her way. Advancing further, he spotted 2 guards outside the minister's study. Direct approach won't work. Dragon, who was invisible, silently appeared behind the 2 guards. 1 Jinjutsu and chakra and mind drain skills later, both were out like a light. Nothing personal, Daichi said, lowering them gently. Just need you out of the way. For the clone, the more difficult part was finding a place to conceal their unconscious bodies. He entered the study, finding it empty. He must be in his chambers. Navigating the mansion with the combined knowledge from his clones and the memories he got from the guards, he quietly took down the remaining patrols. Occasionally, a servant would cross his path, but several seconds later they would also fall asleep. The clones were systematically incapacitating any remaining guards, ensuring no one could raise an alert. Several minutes later, the only people in the whole mansion who hadn't met Dragon was the minister, his wife, and the guards near them. Daichi finally reached the private wing where the minister and his wife resided. 2 elite guards stood vigilant outside the doors. These guards were more imposing, their posture disciplined and eyes sharp. Direct confrontation might get noisy. But then again, maybe that's what I need. Daichi gazed at the 2 elite guards and the ornate doors behind them leading to the minister's chambers. Time to get some answers. Time, 4:21 p.m. Chapter 357, The Intimidating Monkey D. Dragon. Dragon assessed the 2 guards quietly. His observed skill showed that they were both highly skilled ninjas trained in the Earth capital to protect important figures. Their loyalty now was to the Minister of Finance. He smirked beneath his mask. Time to make an impression. Stepping out of the shadows, he allowed the guards to see him, fully clad in his dark green cloak and wearing a dragon-themed mask. The 2 guards immediately snapped to attention, their hands moving toward their weapons. Halt! Identify yourself, one barked, his voice echoing in the silent corridor. Daichi tilted his head slightly. I'm here for an audience with the minister. How did he even get in here? The second guard narrowed his eyes. No one gets through without authorization. He tried to sense the others but soon found that there was no one responding to the commotion. State your name and business. He ordered with a hand hovering above his weapon's pouch. Dragon chuckled softly. Names are unnecessary for you too. As for business. His body slowly began to exude a dangerous intent. Let's just say I'm here for some answers. So step aside. His voice was cold and steady. The second guard scoffed at that notion. Over our dead bodies. There was only a calm expression on Dragon's face beneath his mask. Since you insist. Without warning, the first guard launched a flurry of shuriken. Dragon weaved through them effortlessly. The second guard formed rapid hand seals. Earth-style, stone spikes. The ground beneath Dragon erupted with jagged spikes aiming to impale him. He leapt into the air, flipping gracefully over the deadly protrusions. Fire-style, Dragon Flame Jutsu. Dragon inhaled deeply and exhaled a torrent of intense flames shaped like a roaring dragon's head. The guards reacted swiftly. Earth-style, Mud Wall. A massive barrier rose between them and the incoming flames. The fire collided with the wall, causing a small explosion and smoke to billow. Taking advantage of the obscured vision, the man in the mask dashed forward. He emerged from the smoke and disappeared. The corridor seemed to blur as he closed the distance between him and the guards in an instant. The first guard barely had time to widen his eyes before Daichi's fist connected with his stomach, sending him crashing into the wall. An instant after Dragon attacked, the second guard swung his sword at Dragon's neck. The masked ninja ducked, feeling the blade slice through the air above him. He retaliated with a sweeping kick, but the guard jumped back, avoiding the strike. You're fast, the guard admitted, eyes narrowed. You have no idea. Came the reply from the unknown enemy. At this moment something happened to the first guard Dragon had sent flying into the wall. He vanished and in his place were several stone rubble. Just as the illusion on that substitution jutsu vanished, the first guard appeared from the floor behind Dragon. His right arm was covered in spiked rocks. In less than a second after he appeared, he sent a powerful deadly punch to the enemy's head. But the guard underestimated his opponent thinking his strength was in frontal attacks. The attack connected and Dragon's body was blasted into pieces but the guards noticed that it was made of mud. The 2 guards instantly realized what happened. Mud clone. Even as Dragon sent that guard flying he sensed the use of the substitution jutsu and he used his own after repelling the second guard. The first guard barely had time to attack again before the real Dragon appeared with a palm strike to his chest. Wind style, Gale Palm. A powerful focused gust of wind blasted the guard backward, slamming him into the wall with a resounding crash. Cracks spiderwebbed across the stone where he impacted. Gah! The guard spit several wads of blood and choked as he felt pain radiating throughout his body. What power? Who is he? The second guard reacted swiftly, weaving hand seals. Earth-style, Stone Dragon Jutsu. The floor beneath them rumbled as a massive dragon-shaped formation of rock surged toward the disguised Daichi, its jagged maw open wide. The masked ninja stood in his spot and went through multiple hand seals in a blur and ended with the snake seal. Lightning-style, Temple's Blessing. Powerful lightning chakra erupted from the masked man's body and surrounded him in the form of a small birdcage. A second later the massive stone dragon was upon its target but the next moment several sharp lightning blades extended outwards from the lighting birdcage. It was several meters long and some even reached the ceiling of the hallway. The blades pierced the dragon head and most of its body. Dragon's powerful lightning jutsu not only protected him but also cut through the enemy's earth dragon jutsu like a hot knife through butter. As the disguised Daichi ended his lightning jutsu he was met with a hail of shuriken from the first guard, who had recovered and joined his comrade. The metallic stars whistled through the air, their edges glinting menacingly. Too slow, Daichi muttered from behind the mask. He moved his body gracefully and dodged the shuriken with ease. As one flew perilously close, he caught it between his fingers and flicked it back with added force. The guard deflected it narrowly, surprise evident on his face. Who is he? There is no way he's an ordinary shinobi. Whoever he is, we need to capture him here, if not kill. The second guard replied. The two exchanged a brief glance before nodding in unison. They charged together, coordinating their attacks seamlessly. They exchanged a series of blows, punches, kicks, and weapon strikes, all at blinding speed. The guards fought with the desperation of men who knew their lives were on the line. But Daichi was unfazed. They coordinate well, but not well enough. Earth-style, rock fist jutsu. The first guard's hand became encased in solid rock as he swung a powerful punch toward Daichi. Daichi caught the rocky fist with his palm, the impact sending a shockwave through the corridor. The sheer strength needed to stop his punch surprised the guard. Impossible. The masked ninja didn't bother responding with words. His left hand had a wind chakra-enhanced kunai, and before the guard could react, Dragon impaled the kunai into his heart, effectively ending the man's life. Kuroda! The second guard was furious as he saw this scene. Dragon let go of the man's hand and he stumbled a few steps back. Who? Before he could finish his words, he fell on his back and died. The second guard roared in anger. You'll pay for that. He charged, chakra flaring around him. Stone hammer technique. His arm transformed into a massive stone hammer, swinging down with crushing force. Daichi sidestepped, the hammer obliterating the floor where he stood moments before. Too slow, Daichi taunted. He formed quick hand seals. Lightning style, thunderbolt strike. A bolt of lightning arced from his fingertips, striking the guard. Electricity coursed through his body, causing him to convulse and drop to his knees. Seizing the moment, Daichi appeared behind him. It's over. The guard formed one last set of hand seals, desperation evident on his face and in his movements. He was looking to sacrifice himself and take them both out. Earth-style, mountain crusher. The very foundations of the mansion trembled as the floor cracked open, aiming to swallow and crush the both of them. Loyal and persistent to the end. Admirable but futile. Dragon spoke as he unleashed his chakra. His earth chakra nature was far more powerful than most shinobi in the world. Only a handful could match his skills in earth-style chakra nature and jutsu. The strong earth chakra from the masked man overrode the guard's jutsu, quickly ending it. Dragon didn't waste any time and immediately drove a kunai into the guard's back, ending his struggle swiftly. The masked Daichi looked down at them. Rest. You've done your duty. He turned towards the grand doors a few meters away. The skirmish had caused significant noise. There was no doubt the occupants inside were alerted. That should have gotten their attention. Dragon's right hand burst with lightning chakra. He sharpened it into a thin bladed shape and sent a precise cut through the locks of the door. Hearing the locks cut, he pushed the door open and slowly walked in. The masked ninja walked into an opulent chamber adorned with lavish furnishings and intricate artwork. At a grand desk near the window stood Minister Kuroda Michinori, his face pale and eyes wide with shock. His quill hovered above a parchment, ink dripping unnoticed onto the paper. Less than a minute ago, inside, the minister and his wife were having a calm afternoon, but suddenly they heard commotion outside their room and soon felt the whole building shake. They immediately realized that they were under enemy attack. The minister pulled a lever near his desk and the door to his chamber immediately locked. Soon everything outside became quiet. But before the two could relax or find out what was going on, they saw a blue slash cutting through the door vertically. The slash easily cut the iron bolts and soon the door was slowly opened. The minister's wife let out a small scream in fright as the cup of tea in her hand fell to the floor. They saw a tall man in a dark green cloak and wearing a dark red dragon mask. He entered the room slowly and looked at the two silently. Dragon saw the Minister of Finance, Kuroda Michinori, standing near his ornate desk, quill in hand, ink dripping onto a half-written document. His wife, Tomomi Michinori, who had been pouring tea, now stood still with a pale face, the delicate porcelain cup now shattered on the floor. Who are you?" the minister demanded, attempting to muster authority despite his trembling voice. The masked man stayed silent as he looked at the two. He took a step forward and immediately the minister and his wife jolted back several feet. The minister knew the man in front of him was strong since he could get past his guards. He wanted to buy time for the other ninjas guarding outside to get in here. They stood in the center of the large chamber and watched the masked intruder with fear and hate. Dragon looked around the room and nodded to himself as he saw the luxurious lifestyle of the minister. His eyes soon landed on the teapot. Without saying a word to the other two in the room, the masked ninja walked to the desk where the minister was a minute ago. Dragon took off his mask and placed it on the desk as he looked at the teapot. He revealed his face to the world for the first time. The minister and his wife saw the face of the intruder. A tall middle-aged man with long spiky black hair with a widow's peak with a bright red colored tattoo on the left side of his face. The minister's wife clutched her chest. "Guards! Guards!" she cried, her voice tinged with panic. "Your guards won't be coming," the disguised Daichi stated calmly. He took a cup from the nearby tray and began pouring himself some tea. "No one's coming." That answer was unexpected. They never imagined that someone would attack them in their own home. Especially without any warning. You don't mind, do you? I haven't eaten anything in a day and I'm really thirsty. The man spoke calmly without even looking at them despite the situation they were in. Hearing those words angered the other two people in the room. The audacity. Minister Kuroda finally gathered his courage and spoke with anger in his voice. I asked you a question. Who are you? Silence reigned for several seconds before the unknown man spoke. Dragon. My name is Monkey D. Dragon. What a strange name. The minister immediately tried to recall anyone with that name or anyone who looked similar to the man in front of him. But no matter how hard he tried to recall, he couldn't find any answer. The minister straightened, regaining his composure. All right, Dragon. If that's even your real name. Do you have any idea what you just did? Do you know who I am? The fury on the minister's face was unmistakable. Minister Kuroda Michinori, Dragon replied evenly as he dropped a couple of sugar cubes in his cup. Financier, power broker, and collaborator with dangerous criminals. Kuroda's eyes narrowed at the last part. I don't know what you're talking about. Dragon ignored the lie and calmly stirred the milk. Once it was ready, he raised the delicate porcelain cup to his lips, tilting it with measured precision. The warm liquid flowed in a steady stream, his throat moving rhythmically as he swallowed without pause, savoring the tea's delightful flavor with each gulp. His hand was steady, drawing out the motion until the cup was empty. Finally, Dragon lowered the cup with a quiet exhale. Damn, that's good tea. Seeing the man's action, the minister's wife became angrier and was about to yell, but Kuroda raised his hand and stopped her. He had been in and had arranged enough diplomatic meetings and hostile takeovers to know a power play when he saw one. Dragon placed the cup back on the tray and grabbed the chair in front of the desk. He easily dragged it towards the center of the room. The minister and his wife took a few steps back and saw the man place the chair in the middle of the room before sitting on it with right leg crossed over his left. Experiencing such an unreal moment, the minister and his wife felt like servants in front of their master for a split second. And it infuriated the two. How dare you? Trying to intimidate me in my own home. The man gritted his teeth in anger. You certainly have my attention. Dragon chuckled. Ha ha ha. No, minister. It's the other way around. He shook his head and then gazed into the eyes of his prey. No hint of playfulness could be seen on his face. You're the one who has my undivided attention now. The minister stood frozen in absolute fear as he saw Dragon's eyes. He recognized that gaze. The one that held no emotion other than the want for complete and utter destruction of everything. They were the same eyes he saw in another ninja he feared. The terrifying snake Sandine Orochimaru. Chapter 358, The Minister's True Plans. The finance minister and his wife stood frozen in pure terror as they gazed into the eyes of the unknown intruder. They had never felt such powerlessness before in their lives. Dragon looked at the two with an impassive gaze for nearly a minute. Unknown to the two in front of him, Dragon was using his observed skill and his observational skills to gather as much data as possible on the two before moving forward with his interrogation. Dragon scrutinized the minister first. Kuroda Michinori was a man in his early 50s, standing at about 5 feet 11 inches tall with a lean build. His hair was a deep ebony black, streaked with strands of silver that added a distinguished touch to his appearance. He kept it neatly slicked back, revealing a high forehead and sharp widow's peak. His face was angular in shape with pronounced cheekbones, a straight nose, and a strong jawline with a meticulously trimmed goatee. He wore a finely tailored dark purple kimono embroidered with intricate gold patterns. A silk sash cinched his waist, and his fingers were adorned with several ornate rings set with precious gemstones. An opulent attire befitting his status. Dragon thought as he looked at the man. LV, 16, Kuroda Michinori. Age, 53. HP, 1964 CP, 1609. Affiliation, Land of Earth, Minister of Finance. Kuroda Michinori was born to a very wealthy family in the Land of Earth. He joined the daimyo court at a young age, and after years of hard work, influential deals, and eliminating his opposition, he became the finance minister of the Land of Earth. Ambitious and cunning, he has amassed great wealth and power afterwards through shrewd deals and alliances, some of which are shrouded in secrecy, even from the daimyo. He is known to associate with questionable figures to further his ambitions. He possesses little combat abilities but is skilled in political maneuvering. He met Orochimaru several months ago unexpectedly and made a deal with him afterwards. Currently feeling fear, anger, and hate. STR, 24. AGI, 20. Int, 91. Based on the memories I got and the information I gathered, he always carries himself with an air of authority and confidence. A man worthy of the position of Minister of Finance of a great nation. When Dragon read the last part of what his system had shown him, an expression finally appeared on his face. Anger. The other two in the room could clearly read that emotion. The minister had no idea what made the man angry or when he had made such an enemy. The minister's eyes flickered to his door every few seconds, but nothing happened. No one came and he heard no sounds coming from the outside. Damn it. Did he really kill everyone here? As if reading his thoughts, Dragon spoke. Like I said before, your guards are incapacitated and your security has been bypassed. It's just the three of us now. Kuroda glared at him with a mix of fear and anger. You come into my home, kill my guards, and threaten my family. This is an act of war. The land of Earth will not tolerate such a brazen attack on me. We will find out who you are and then destroy you and everything you care about. The disguised Daichi's voice remained steady even after hearing the threat from such a high official. Maybe. But the odds of you being alive to witness that are slim to none. Kuroda widened his eyes in shock. Do you have any idea what you're saying? You're threatening a member of the Earth Royal Court. If you do anything to me or my wife, there's no place on Earth where you'll be safe. Dragon scoffed hearing such a predictable lame threat. You overestimate your value and the resources of this country. The minister clenched his fists in anger. You won't get away with this. Dragon tilted his head. I will. You just don't know it. The minister backed away slowly. What do you want? Information, Dragon replied. He took the direct approach. Orochimaru came to see you several months ago. You made some sort of a deal with him. Now he operates here in the land of Earth under your protection. Kuroda's eyes flickered with recognition before he masked it. I don't know what you're talking about. Dragon sighed. Let's not waste time with lies. I'm a patient man. But I have my limits and events of the last few days have been wearing that thin. Don't make me resort to less pleasant methods, Minister. How dare you, Tomomi spat in fury as she heard that blatant threat. Her voice was trembling in fear yet she was defiant. Invading our home, threatening us like this. Dragon met her gaze, his own eyes cold and unreadable. Your husband has made choices that have consequences. Kuroda's eyes narrowed as realization dawned on him. Coming here to ask about Orochimaru? Especially at this time? There could only be one reason. He must be from the Hidden Leaf Village, here to save Tsunade. So that's it, huh? He immediately straightened his posture, attempting to project authority. If you think you can intimidate me, you're gravely mistaken. You're from the Hidden Leaf Village, aren't you? Any harm that comes to me will spark an all-out war between our nations. Can you handle the consequences of putting not just your village but your entire nation at war? Dragon had a small smile as he heard that. The fact that you think I'm from the Hidden Leaf Village. It means you know about the recent events, don't you? About the abduction of Tsunade Senju? The minister and his wife were taken aback and the man suddenly realized his mistake. Under normal circumstances he would have never made such an amateur error. Dragon remained unfazed and kept his gaze steady. Simple threats like that won't deter me. You underestimate how little I care for that village or your political posturing. The minister was taken back by that dismissive attitude. What? Isn't he here to save Tsunade? Am I wrong? Is he with the Leaf? Or is he with another faction looking to take advantage of this situation? Or he could be trying to distance himself from the village trying to protect them. At that moment the minister's wife, Tomomi, stepped forward and spoke. You're meddling in affairs beyond your understanding. Leave now, and perhaps we can forget this ever happened. A faint smile tugged at the corners of Dragon's mouth. Did you know, he began softly, in the Three Wolves mountain range to the north, there's a species of bird that sings only at night? Kuroda exchanged a puzzled glance with Tomomi, uncertainty flickering in their eyes. What does that have to do with anything? He demanded. They say its song is the most hauntingly beautiful melody ever heard, Dragon continued, his gaze distant as if recalling a distant memory. Travelers have ventured into those treacherous peaks just to hear it. Many don't return. Those who do, speak of a tune so enchanting it lures even the stars to listen. He paused, letting the silence stretch uncomfortably. The minister shifted uneasily. Why are you telling us this? There's something peculiar about that bird, Dragon said, his eyes snapping back to them. It feeds on the very creatures drawn to its song. Mice, insects, even other birds. They come, entranced, and it devours them whole. The reality is, that its beautiful melody is a deadly trap. Tomomi's grip tightened on her husband's arm. The color drained from Kuroda's face as he began to grasp the undertone. Legend says the bird wasn't always this way, Dragon continued, his voice barely above a whisper. Once, it sang to bring joy. But harsh winters and scarce food taught it that survival sometimes requires adaptation. It became a predator cloaked in allure. Soon after, even when it was no longer winter, the bird used its otherworld melody to lure and prey. He leaned forward, his eyes piercing into the minister's. It's fascinating how necessity changes us. How survival blurs the lines between innocence and monstrosity. And what we become after. Kuroda swallowed hard. What are you implying? Perhaps you're like that bird, Dragon suggested. To survive the threat of Orochimaru, perhaps you agreed to help him. Or maybe you were seduced by the power he offered and became willing to sacrifice others for your own gain. Tomomi's voice quivered. You don't know anything about us. Oh, but I do, Dragon replied calmly. You've aided Orochimaru, allowed him to operate within your lands, all for your own benefit. What do you think will happen when the Minister of Intelligence or the daimyo finds out what you've done? Do you think they'll be merciful with you? Kuroda's fists clenched at his sides and he sneered at Dragon. You think you can intimidate me with that? I am the finance minister of the land of Earth. You're a nobody in this nation. So whatever you believe you can gain here, you're gravely mistaken. Ha ha ha. Dragon chuckled softly, his laughter devoid of humor. Minister Kuroda, As I've said before, your titles mean very little to me. What matters are your actions. Specifically, your collaboration with Orochimaru. The minister's composure finally cracked. He forced me. I had no choice. Lie. Dragon noted, feeling the subtle vibrations through his invisible chakra strings attached to Kuroda's body. His heart rate was steady, not the spike that would accompany genuine fear. From the moment Dragon sat down, he had his chakra strings attached to both the minister and his wife. He was reading their micro-expressions and their body vitals. Nothing missed Dragon's senses. When he sensed the lie, he decided not to confront the minister for the time being. He wanted to know how much the man was willing to give him before he exposed him. But you did have a choice, Dragon countered. You chose to help him smuggle shipments from the land of snow, didn't you? Kuroda's eyes widened slightly. He knows about the shipments. But I was so careful. I helped because he threatened my family. Another lie. He also sensed a spike in vitals and a certain pattern in the minister's wife when he said that Orochimaru threatened his family. She knows he's lying. That means she's in on it too. Dragon decided to let it pass for now. What is Orochimaru planning with Tsunade Senju? At the mention of her name, both Kuroda and Tomomi's vitals spiked. It was a clear sign of panic and fear. There it goes again. Their vitals are going all over the place just like before. Dragon had sensed increased heartbeat, blood pressure, and other anomalies in their bodies when he said Tsunade's name before. Tomomi averted her gaze, while Kuroda struggled to maintain eye contact. I don't know what he's planning, the minister insisted. Dragon's patience was wearing thin. Your lies are becoming tiresome. Tomomi stepped forward, desperation evident in her eyes. Please, we truly don't know. Orochimaru keeps his intentions hidden. Dragon stood up slowly from his seat, the chair scraping lightly against the floor. Fine. We'll do it the hard way. Kuroda took a step back, his voice trembling. What are you going to do? Dragon's gaze hardened. I'm going to extract the truth, one way or another. Killing intent slowly filling the air. Not enough to knock out the minister or his wife, but enough to petrify them. Tomomi clutched her husband's arm for support as she looked at Dragon in fear. Wait! There must be another way. Dragon began forming hand seals. Wait, the minister suddenly blurted out. I'll tell you. Tomomi looked at him in alarm. Kuroda, no! He squeezed her hand reassuringly. We have no choice. Dragon paused his movements. He lowered his hands and looked at the two with narrowed eyes. I'm listening. Kuroda took a shaky breath. Orochimaru has a hidden facility in the mountains a few 100 kilometers north of here. He's been conducting experiments there, using the resources I've helped him acquire. What kind of experiments? Dragon kept an impassive face and asked. Genetic modifications, cloning, forbidden jutsu, you name it, the minister confessed. He's obsessed with gaining new abilities. And Tsunade? Dragon's eyes narrowed. What does he want with her? Her medical expertise, Kuroda replied. He believes she can perfect his experiments, help him achieve his goals. He wants her as his assistant. Dragon stayed silent as he looked at the two. It would have been better for you if you hadn't cooked up such a lie. I'm telling you the truth. Fear, anxiety, and desperation was evident on the faces of the two. Dragon felt the increased heartbeat through the chakra strings. You're a very good liar. Mixing truths with lies. I know a bit about that. I've used such methods before. So unfortunately for you, it won't work on me, minister. Tomomi interjected, tears welling in her eyes. Please, we've told you all we can. Spare us. Dragon regarded her for a moment. He was getting irritated with the lies. He turned his attention back to Kuroda and spoke with crossed arms. You're protecting him even now? Even under the threat of death? Even with an enemy right in front of you willing to kill you too, you're still lying to protect him? That means whatever secrets you hold are much greater than I thought. Dragon's chakra strings became much stronger and completely immobilized the two. I'm going to learn everything you're keeping hidden in that skull of yours. Even if I have to literally cut it open to do it. Kuroda's expression hardened. You don't understand the influence he holds. Crossing him is a death sentence. Yet here I am, willing to take that risk, Dragon retorted. What does that say about me? That you're a fool, the minister snapped. Perhaps, Dragon conceded. But a determined fool can be quite dangerous. Sweat formed on Kuroda's brow. Please. He'll kill me if I betray him. Dragon's gaze hardened and he asked in a mocking tone. And what do you think I'll do to you if you don't cooperate? Tomomi interjected, her voice pleading. Please, you don't understand. Orochimaru is not a man to cross. Dragon glanced at her. I am well aware of who he is. And I have no intention of leaving without the information I came here for. At that moment Tomomi was truly afraid for her life. She struggled against invisible chakra strings to escape, but it was futile. She's the weaker one. And she knows far more than I originally thought. I can have a good start with her. Dragon looked at the minister's wife and finally made a decision. I'll begin with you. Chapter 359, the minister's true plans too. Dragon's chakra strings tightened subtly, rendering both Kuroda and Tomomi immobile. Fear flashed in their eyes as they realized they couldn't move. I'll begin with you, Dragon said as his gaze settled on Tomomi. His voice was devoid of emotion. Tomomi and her husband felt dread growing from the pit of their stomachs. Is it ready? Dragon mentally asked his 4 shadow clones stationed throughout the compound. Yeah. I used it on them as much as I could. Up my chara reserves by absorbing them from the guards first, but now I'm low again. Leveling up those Yamanaka techniques took a lot out of me. Looks like we were all able to level up those jutsus. That should give us a good start. I'm going to dispel myself now. One by one the 4 solid clones dispelled themselves and their combined experience spread across the remaining daichis. Ninjutsu, Mind Reading Jutsu has leveled up, X7. Ninjutsu, Mind Destruction Jutsu has leveled up, X3. Skill Mind Drain has leveled up, X4. Skill Chakra Absorption has leveled up, X5. Ninjutsu, Body Freeze Jutsu has leveled up, X2. I see the minister is being tough. Came the message from the original Daichi. Yes, but I somewhat anticipated it. He wouldn't have become the minister of such a large nation if he gave in so easily to every threat. Everything is proceeding within my expectations. Dragon nodded to himself and replied. Go ahead. We need everything you can get from their heads. I'm on it, boss. Dragon closed the communication array and refocused on his task. Dragon took a step forward and Tomomi's body shook with terror. Please, no! I don't know anything more, she pleaded, her voice trembling. That's a lie. Right now she's feeling true terror for her life, but she's still willing to keep their secrets. Is she that afraid of Orochimaru, or is there something more important than her life? Or is she lying in the hopes that I'm bluffing about harming them? Kuroda gritted his teeth and struggled against the invisible bonds. You bastard. Leave her out of this. She's innocent. Dragon tilted his head slightly and glanced at the man. Innocent? She knows more than she's admitting. He took another slow step toward Tomomi. Sometimes, those who appear the weakest hold the most valuable secrets. Tomomi's breathing quickened. He can't possibly harm me, can he? I swear, I've told you everything I know, she insisted. Dragon's eyes bore into hers. Lies won't help you now. He lifted his hand, and a faint glow emanated from his fingertips. There's a technique that allows me to delve into your memories. It's invasive. Kuroda's face paled. No! You can't. Ignoring him, Dragon continued, it can be quite painful if you resist. But if you relax, it will be over quickly. Tears welled into Tomomi's eyes. Why are you doing this? Because time is of the essence, Dragon replied coldly. And I've run out of patience. She looked desperately at her husband. Kuroda, please. Kuroda's shoulders slumped. Tomomi. I'm sorry. Dragon placed his fingertips lightly on her temples. This will only take a moment. As he began to channel his chakra, Tomomi felt a strange sensation, like icy tendrils creeping into her mind. Panic surged through her. No. If he really hurts me. If he really kills us, then all of this will be for nothing. I won't be. No. I have to stop this. Wait, she cried out. I'll tell you the truth. I'll tell you everything I know about Orochimaru. As soon as those words left her lips, Dragon sensed a severe spike in Kuroda's vitals. Don't! Don't you dare say another word. This time he was warning her. There was even a hint of threat in his tone. Dragon ignored the man and looked at his wife. He could tell that she was finally willing to be completely honest. But he didn't stop his movements. You had your chance. I gave you plenty of opportunities. Now we do it my way. He shook his head and spoke with finality. He activated the mind-reading jutsu. The world around him blurred as he delved into Tomomi's consciousness. Suddenly, he found himself standing in a vast, ethereal landscape. The representation of her mind. So this is her mental space. She doesn't have her own avatar. Not surprising. She hasn't received any training whatsoever, he mused, observing the swirling mists and fragmented images floating around. Each memory shimmered like a delicate bubble, waiting to be touched. Dragon looked at himself and saw that he was in his true form. He was in the body of Daichi Hakama floating in a vast space. I expected this from the memories of my clones, but still. Looks like I'll have to make sure these guys don't talk after I'm done. Daichi looked around and soon reached out to the nearest memory. As he made contact, the scene enveloped him. He stood in a grand hallway of the mansion, observing Kuroda as he spoke to his head guard. His wife was a few feet behind him. Recall all patrols to the inner grounds, Kuroda ordered sternly. I want the defenses around this area increased immediately. Yes, Minister, the guard replied with a bow before hurrying off. The Leaf Genin looked around the room and noticed a calendar. The date on it was marked 8 days ago. This was a week ago. Daichi noted. He knew something was coming even back then. The memory faded and Daichi moved to another that glowed slightly brighter. Touching it, he was pulled into a private chamber where Tomomi and Kuroda sat close together. Is Orochimaru moving forward with the plan? Tomomi asked, her eyes alight with anticipation. Kuroda nodded. Yes. Everything is set. He assures me that the results will exceed our expectations. She smiled slyly. Soon, we'll have everything we've ever desired. Ambition runs deep with these two. Daichi thought with a hint of disgust creeping in. This memory is only a few days old. Seeking more, Daichi delved deeper into her memories, reaching back a few months. This is a memory from 3 months ago. January, if I'm not mistaken. Daichi found himself in a lavish sitting room. He looked at the 2 other occupants and watched the memory play out. Tomomi noticed her husband pacing around the room with a tense and frustrated expression. What's bothering you? It's not about that land, is it? She asked softly. Kuroda sighed heavily. Yes. I lost the bidding war. Me. To top it off, I lost it to that insufferable Ishida. At the last moment the rights to the northern lands slipped through my fingers. She touched his arm reassuringly. There will be other opportunities, my love. He shook his head. You don't understand. That land was crucial for expanding my influence. She frowned. Is there nothing we can do? Kuroda became silent and hesitated to give a reply. Tomomi, noticing the discomfort on her husband's face, frowned. What's wrong? You know you can tell me anything. The minister sighed, and after a few more seconds of silence he spoke softly. Someone came to see me a few days ago. That night after the auction. Someone dangerous. He made me a new offer. Tomomi's eyes slightly widened. Very rarely does her husband refer to someone as dangerous. Who? Orochimaru of the Sannin. He came to see me that night. Her eyes widened in shock. Orochimaru? You mean the rogue ninja from the Hidden Leaf Village? Yes. The minister nodded as he sat down on the bed. What did he want? Did he threaten you? No. He came alone. We just talked. He offered me a partnership, Kuroda admitted. He needs assistance acquiring some advanced medical technology from the Land of Snow and in setting up a base here. In exchange. In exchange, what? She was desperate to know what a dangerous criminal like Orochimaru could offer the finance minister of a great nation. In exchange, he promises immortality. Tomomi gasped. Immortality? Is that even possible? Kuroda sighed and slowly nodded his head. For someone like him, it's a possibility. And not just that. He said he would make me as strong as a Kage-level ninja. I don't know how, but he was very confident in himself. Tomomi then calmed down from her shock and gazed at her husband. All these offers. But they're still not a guarantee. We don't know if any of it is possible or not. You wouldn't have been so conflicted if it was only that. What else did he promise you? Kuroda's gaze became distant. He also said he could help me become the daimyo of the Land of Earth. She grasped his hands tightly. What? Yes. The minister nodded. He then looked at her with a dead serious gaze. What we're talking about is treason. If anyone finds out, we'll be in serious trouble. Tomomi held her husband's hand as if to reassure him. I won't say a word of this to anyone. You have my word, my love. Kuroda looked at her and then nodded. At that moment his wife was thinking about the offer she just heard. Still, if you think about it, it's incredible. Just imagine. You, becoming the daimyo. Us ruling this entire nation forever. It's a wonderful dream. Kuroda looked uncertain. But aligning with someone like him, it's dangerous. He can't be trusted. He betrayed his own village and his people. She dismissed his concerns with a wave. Ninjas, no matter how strong, wouldn't dare attack the daimyo or members of his court, no matter what land. It's the law of the world. The fact that he came to make a deal instead of outright threatening you is proof of that. We're untouchable. This could be our chance. He looked into her eyes, seeing the excitement. You really believe we should accept? Yes. Absolutely, she affirmed. We've grown complacent with mere wealth. We can make money and become rich at any time. But the power to rule over a great nation? The chance to live forever? How often do opportunities like that come? This is our moment. And if he doesn't keep his end of the deal after he gets what he wants? Kuroda asked his wife with a raised eyebrow. If that happens, I'm sure you can think of several ways to make him regret that choice. Tomomi said with a smile that had a cruel tone. So she was the one who pushed him toward this alliance. Daichi realized and anger was simmering beneath the surface of his skin. He moved to another memory, this one from 2 months ago. The couple sat together once more and the atmosphere was tense. Orochimaru came to see me. I wanted to know more about his plans on how he was going to make me the daimyo. Kuroda told his wife. And? Did he tell you? The minister nodded his head. Yes. He told me some of his plans. But for all of it to work, Tsunade Senju is needed. Kuroda revealed quietly. Tsunade Senju? I heard she's a great medic. The best in the world. Wait! Isn't she also his teammate? Former teammate. But he assures me he holds no such sentiments. He plans to abduct her when he's ready, Kuroda said as he lit a cigar. Tomomi raised an eyebrow. But why her? Is it for her medical expertise? Does he expect her to help him? Not exactly. He needs her for his experiment. Well, to be more precise, she is his experiment, he replied. Her rare lineage is vital. It's the key for him to achieve his goals and for us to realize our dreams. Tomomi nodded and sighed as she thought about the situation. I take it she's important to the Leaf Village? The minister nodded his head. Very. If she gets abducted, they'll be in a panic and will search for her all over. Tensions will rise between our nations. And if anyone finds out we had a part in all this, we'll be in serious danger. Tomomi was silent for several moments. She looked out the window for a short while to gather her thoughts before she turned back to her husband. But they won't find out, will they? You're taking extreme precautions, aren't you? Kuroda nodded. Yes. Everything that's being imported into the country is carefully monitored and nobody knows where it's going except Wappoji and Orochimaru. And no one knows of my deal with that snake except for you. Tomomi smiled hearing that. Then I'm not worried. She shrugged nonchalantly. What do I care about a ninja from another nation? As long as he fulfills his promises to us. Besides, she's a ninja of an enemy nation. Even if we only take that into account, we're still doing right by our country. Kuroda looked troubled. This could spark conflict with the Hidden Leaf Village. And we have the Hidden Stone fighting for us. She laughed lightly. Let those idiots squabble with each other. Soon, we'll be beyond the reach of such petty concerns. Her indifference to the suffering of others is astounding. She is just as ruthless as her husband. A perfect twisted match. Daichi thought as his disdain grew, looking at the image of the woman. He sifted through more memories but found that this was the extent of her knowledge. A woman who's driven by greed and ambition and blind to the moral decay consuming her. I have something special in mind for you, Tomomi Michinori. With a bit of frustration which was kept hidden, Daichi exited her mind. The ethereal landscape faded and he was back in the opulent chamber, his fingertips still resting on Tomomi's temples. He pulled his hands away and let out a deep breath of air. Tomomi's eyes were glazed. It was a lingering effect of the jutsu. Kuroda was watching anxiously, his face was a mix of fear and anger. What did you do to her? He demanded. Dragon ignored him and closed his eyes as he took a long deep breath of air. These two were willing to sacrifice anything and anyone for their own gain. They aligned themselves with Orochimaru not out of fear, but out of sheer ambition. Hey! I asked you a question. What did you do to her? He demanded. Nothing yet. Dragon fixed him with a cold stare. Minced her. After what I saw in there, it's not what I did to her that should worry you. It's what I'm going to do. Your wife encouraged you to partner with Orochimaru, he stated flatly. Despite knowing the damage it could cause and the lives it could ruin. Kuroda's eyes widened in fear and shock. He knows. You invaded her mind? Dragon's eyes narrowed. Did you think I was bluffing? Dragon slowly chuckled and shook his head. He cracked his knuckles and faced the minister. You two are going to pay. But that can wait till I find out what you have hidden away inside that head of yours. With those words the disguised Daichi walked forward and he went through several seals. A moment later his hand gripped the head of the minister. His next target for the mind-reading jutsu. Chapter 360, The Minister's True Plans 3. The minister tried to pull away, but the invisible chakra strings held him in place. Get your hands off me. Kuroda spat, fear creeping into his voice. The disguised Daichi's gaze was cold. It's time to see what secrets you're hiding. A moment later he activated the mind-reading jutsu on the tied-up man. The world around him blurred and dissolved as he delved into the minister's consciousness. Moments later, he found himself standing in front of an elegant, well-maintained mansion. So this is his mental landscape. Daichi observed. It's much more structured than Tomomi's. This must be his childhood home. He slowly walked but suddenly a barrier appeared around the house. It shimmered in a purple color as Daichi reached out to touch it. He quickly analyzed the defense and understood its mechanics. A little bit stronger than the standard mental barrier. But not something Orochimaru placed. Makes sense. If I was the minister I wouldn't trust that snake to tamper with my mind either. It really was a good thing I raided Danzo's base. With the Yamanaka jutsu, breaking through these will be easy. Daichi got to work identifying the weakness of the barrier. He quickly broke through without triggering any redundancies set in place. Time to see what you have guarded in your head. He walked in and observed every inch of the place. The mansion exuded wealth and sophistication. High ceilings adorned with crystal chandeliers, marble floors polished to a sheen and walls lined with exquisite artwork. Daichi moved through the grand foyer, taking in the opulence. He noticed numerous shelves neatly filled with scrolls and books. Each one was meticulously labeled and organized. A disciplined mind. It's impressive that his memories are so organized. Well, for a civilian anyway. However, as Daichi looked around more closely he saw that scattered among the pristine shelves were also tables piled with disheveled stacks of papers and dusty tomes. Those must be his old, unwanted memories. Daichi deduced. Ones he'd rather forget. He approached one of the cluttered tables, picking up a worn book. Flipping it open, he skimmed the pages but found nothing of immediate relevance. Placing it back, he turned his attention to the neatly arranged shelves. I need to find memories from the last few months. He ran his fingers along the spines of the scrolls until one caught his eye. A scroll emanating a faint glow. Pulling it from the shelf, he unrolled it carefully. As he read, the environment around him shifted. Daichi stood in a lavish office adorned with dark wood and rich fabrics. The scent of expensive incense lingered in the air. It was January, 3 months prior. Kuroda paced back and forth and his face was contorted with anger. Years of planning, all undone by that meddling fool Ishida, he fumed. How could I lose the bidding war for the northern lands to him? Damn it! He slammed his fist onto a heavy mahogany desk, causing a jade paperweight to topple over. Those lands were crucial for expansion. This loss will set me back years. Daichi stood nearby and watched silently, noting the minister's frustration. He looked around the room and noticed nothing out of the ordinary until he caught a small movement in the corner. He's here. Suddenly, a low, mocking laughter echoed from the shadows of the room. Kuroda snapped his head up. Who's there? He demanded, his eyes scanning the dim corners. From the darkness, a figure emerged with an unsettling grace. Pale skin, long black hair, and eyes like slits of molten gold. Orochimaru stepped forward, his lips curling into a sinister smile. Good evening, Minister Kuroda, Orochimaru hissed. You seem troubled. Daichi's face tightened as he looked at the man. And even though it was just a figure in a memory, the young genin couldn't help but get slightly angry. But he immediately composed himself and watched the events play out. Kuroda looked at the man puzzled, not instantly recognizing him but several seconds later his eyes widened. Fear and disbelief crossed his features as he looked at the other man. Why you? You're Orochimaru, the missing nin from the hidden leaf, he uttered. Regaining some composure, he immediately yelled. Guards! Guards! Kuroda looked between his door and Orochimaru and waited for his ninjas to get in but nothing happened. Silence answered him. Orochimaru chuckled softly. No need to shout. Your guards are merely resting. Unharmed, I assure you. Kuroda swallowed hard. What do you want? He asked, attempting to mask his apprehension. If you do anything to me dash. Relax, Minister. Hoo. At this rate you might have a heart attack. Orochimaru chuckled and replied. Sweat poured down the minister's cheek and he gulped as he was face to face with a known ruthless criminal. Why are you here? What do you want with me? The minister asked again. I've come to offer you a proposition, Orochimaru replied smoothly. One that could provide you with far more opportunities than the ones you seek now. Daichi, who was watching this scene, frowned. There's no way the timing of his visit is a coincidence. Orochimaru must have wanted to meet the minister after he had suffered his defeat at the auction. That way the minister would be more willing. That snake sure knows how to push people's buttons. Hearing Orochimaru's words, the minister narrowed his eyes. Why would someone like you be interested in me? Orochimaru began to circle the room leisurely. Because I see potential in you. An ambitious man willing to take what he wants. A man dissatisfied with the limitations placed upon him. Kuroda crossed his arms and scoffed. Humph. You think I'm willing to work with a disgusting criminal like you? What a bad joke. The snake Sannin only chuckled as he heard that insult. Hi. A disgusting criminal, huh? Well, it's not the worst thing someone's called me. Regardless, I have a feeling you'll be interested in my offer after you hear it. Kuroda shook his head and looked at the man with slight anger. Don't think you know me very well, Orochimaru. I'm the minister of the land of Earth. I can have this entire nation hunt you down with just a few words. I'm not like those weak prey you killed in the hidden leaf. Orochimaru gazed at the man silently for a few moments before he began chuckling. Hi-hee. You really have an overinflated sense of yourself, don't you? His golden eyes showed a hint of his true inner self. The next moment, for the minister, it felt as if he was sinking into a black swamp. The room shifted and all Kuroda could see was darkness and a feeling of sinking. His body was being swallowed by the ground each second. Panic rose in the minister's heart and he tried to fight it. He looked down and suddenly saw the silhouette of a giant black snake with its mouth open, ready to eat him. The minister instantly became petrified and his mind shut down for a second as he experienced the terrifying scene. I'm going to die. There was no other thought in his mind. Suddenly he felt a hand on his right shoulder and darkness around him instantly vanished. The minister was back in his room and he saw Orochimaru standing in front of him with his arm firmly on his shoulder. The man looked into those strange eyes and saw nothing but death, pain and misery to those who opposed him. Orochimaru looked into Kuroda's eyes and spoke in a soft tone. We all think that we're predators. And then we meet someone unexpected on our journey and we learn a very valuable lesson. We are all wrong. The Sannin took his hand off the minister's shoulder and Kuroda immediately fell to his knees. He coughed several times and took several deep breaths of air. Seconds later his body shook and he puked. Orochimaru, having expected such a reaction, had moved away. He was silent and allowed the minister to get his bearings. Daichi, who was watching the whole scene, nodded to himself. I have to admit, he really knows how to scare the shit out of people. Are you ready to hear what I have to say, Minister? Or are you going to waste my time with more threats? The missing ninja from the Leaf Village asked with an amused face. Kuroda finally got himself under control and stood. What do you want from me? He asked. There was unmistakable nervousness in his tone. Orochimaru's gaze locked onto Kuroda's. I require assistance in acquiring certain technologies from the Land of Snow. And a secure area under your control where I can build a lab. Daichi's eyes widened as this was the very information he was looking for. He paid even closer attention to the memory and listened closely to every word. The minister frowned. Advanced technology and a lab? Why does he need me for that? I'm sure a man like you has ways to get such machines and build facilities. So why me? Kuroda asked after some hesitation. I need a space away from prying eyes. And the materials I need. It needs to be brought in discreetly. Kuroda was silent as he listened to the wants of the man. He then crossed his arms and mustered the strength his position gave him. And what do I get out of this in return? And don't tell me you'll spare my life, because that won't be enough to make me work with you. Haha. See, didn't I say it? An ambitious man willing to take what he wants. Orochimaru chuckled and spoke. The minister stayed silent and didn't retort. He wanted to know what the man in front of him was willing to give him. Yes. I do have something in mind for you. You can consider this a partnership. In exchange for helping me, I can give you power beyond your dreams. How about it, minister? Orochimaru's words were like elixir. The minister wanted to know more. I'm listening. People think living a good, healthy, long life is what's important. I have a different view. I'd say living forever and exploring the secrets of the world is the best way to live. Kuroda's eyes widened. He was no fool. He quickly grasped what the man was trying to sell him. But he was skeptical. Immortality? But that's impossible. For others maybe. For me, not so much. Kuroda was shocked by the raw admission. Orochimaru could see the greed slowly growing in the man's eyes. He continued. Not just immortality. I can make you as strong as a Kage-level ninja. And then with my help even the position of daimyo would be in your hands. What? Kuroda's breath caught. The daimyo? But that's treason. Only if you're caught, Orochimaru countered slyly. With my help, you could rule this land. And perhaps, achieve immortality. Power and immortality? Kuroda's voice echoed. His skepticism was evident. Yes. Orochimaru nodded. I've delved into the deepest secrets of ninjutsu. Extending life indefinitely is within reach. But for that, forbidden research is required. And that's where the Hokage and I had disagreements and I had to leave the village. The minister hesitated, temptation warring with caution. And hypothetically, if I were interested, what would you need from me? Resources, Orochimaru answered. Discretion. Access to certain channels that only someone of your stature possesses. Kuroda began to pace again, his mind racing. Aligning with you is risky. If anyone discovered that I was working with you. Think of what you stand to gain, Orochimaru interrupted. Your recent loss would be inconsequential compared to the power you wield. Why me? Why here in the land of Earth? Why not someone from the other nations? The minister wanted to know why Orochimaru selected him and his country for his plans. I've been studying many like you for a while now. A man with great ambition and interests is easier to work with than someone who is not. That's not to say the rest aren't ambitious. It's just, I've selected this land because it's hostile to the Leaf and the Land of Fire and you're the most suitable one here. For now you'll have to be satisfied with that answer. Orochimaru replied with a smile. There was a long pause. Finally, Kuroda faced him. Give me some time to consider. Orochimaru inclined his head. Of course. But don't take too long. Opportunities like this are fleeting. As swiftly as he had appeared, Orochimaru melted back into the shadows, leaving the minister alone with his thoughts. The memory faded and Daichi found himself back in the mental mansion. So that's how it began. Orochimaru preyed on his ambition during a moment of vulnerability. He moved deeper into the mansion, seeking more recent memories. Passing by a grand staircase, he noticed a door slightly ajar, a faint light seeping through. Curiosity piqued, he pushed it open. Inside was a study filled with maps and documents strewn across a large table. Approaching it, he saw plans outlining shipments from the Land of Snow, along with notes bearing Orochimaru's seal. Evidence of their continued collaboration. Daichi noted. He reached for another glowing scroll on the desk. Unfurling it, the surroundings shifted once more. Kuroda sat in his office and was looking over several documents. As he absorbed the information from those papers, he spoke in a hushed tone with a nearby figure. Daichi looked at the man who was respectfully standing near the minister and quickly identified him. So he's Wappoji. Kuroda's known intermediary. Everything is proceeding as planned. Wappoji whispered to his master. The shipments will arrive as a non-priority cargo supply. But I have additional men guarding it discreetly. They'll be moving through these areas. He said, pointing to a map. Daichi immediately came near the minister and memorized the map and routes. These routes look like underground tunnels. Good, Kuroda replied, clasping his fingers. Ensure there are no delays. He spoke as he studied the map. Daichi could hear the minister's thoughts. So this is where you're building your lab, huh? Creating a hidden facility in that area. It's quite brilliant. A barren land where no one goes. Perfect. Even if it is at the edge of my territory, no one will know. Make sure to keep a low profile and I want every shipment to move undetected. Kuroda ordered. Yes. I'll get it done. My lord, may I ask, why the sudden interest in these technologies from the land of snow? He asked Kuroda. All I can say is that I'm indulging someone. If the outcome is as expected, then there will be rich rewards for everyone. Right now, that's all you need to know. Of course, my lord. Wappoji nodded before slipping away into the darkness. The scene dissolved, bringing Daichi back to the study within the minister's mind. He's a big part of this conspiracy and certainly no unwilling participant. And he's using his authority to facilitate Orochimaru's plans. Daichi realized. I need to find more about Orochimaru's current operations. Scanning the room, he spotted a locked cabinet. With a mere thought, it opened and revealed an ominous red scroll. As he touched it, another memory unfolded. Kuroda sat at a grand desk carved from dark mahogany, his fingers lightly drumming on the polished surface. His eyes held slight fear, but the minister tried not to show that emotion on his face. Across from him was Orochimaru. He looked calm yet exuded an unmistakable heavy presence. I've considered your proposal, Kuroda began, his voice steady. But if I'm to risk everything, I need to know how you plan to make me the daimyo of the land of Earth. Orochimaru's lips curved into a sly smile. Patience, minister. All in due time. Power of such magnitude isn't granted lightly. Kuroda leaned forward. I've provided you with resources, discreet passages, and turned a blind eye to your operations. I require more than vague assurances. Orochimaru's golden eyes gleamed. Very well. Tell me, what do you know of the first Hokage? Kuroda arched an eyebrow. Hashirama Senju? Only that he's a legend. A man who shaped the very foundation of the shinobi world. But he's been dead for decades. How does he relate to our arrangement? He is the key. The first Hokage was so powerful he became known as the god of shinobi. There was only one who could come close to matching Hashirama in power, but in the end even he too failed. The first Hokage is the man who single-handedly changed the era. Kuroda could hear admiration in Orochimaru's voice. But he knew it wasn't Hashirama's personality that Orochimaru was drawn to but his power. The snake Sannin was fascinated by the man's godlike strength. A low chuckle escaped Orochimaru's throat. As I said, his blood is the key, minister. The key to achieving unparalleled power. Kuroda frowned slightly. You're speaking in riddles. Even if he was that strong, what could you possibly do with the blood of a man long dead? I'm sure your village must have already conducted some experiments trying to replicate his power. And I would have heard about it if there were wood-style users running about. So the fact that I haven't means those experiments were a failure. Ha ha ha. You're quite clever. Yes, the village tried to bring back that power but they failed. Orochimaru stepped closer, his voice barely above a whisper. And while Hashirama himself is gone, his lineage persists. His granddaughter, Tsunade Senju, carries the purest form of his bloodline. Daichi felt a chill run down his spine at the mention of Tsunade. Kuroda's eyes narrowed. Tsunade Senju, one of your former teammates, is she not? You intend to involve her? Can you really go through with it? Indeed. Besides, I've let go of those bonds long ago. Orochimaru replied smoothly. Daichi, who was watching everything, couldn't help but become furious. You bastard. If anything happens to them, I'll make you pay with far more than your life. He controlled himself and kept watching the unpleasant memory. I plan to acquire her for my experiments. With her genetic material, I can replicate the wood style. A power unmatched in its potential. The minister leaned back in his chair and crossed his arms as he considered this. And you believe this will aid in our goals? With the wood style at my disposal, I can create an army loyal to us alone, Orochimaru explained. An army capable of subduing any opposition. Kuroda tapped his fingers thoughtfully. An army of wood style users. That would certainly tip the scales in my favor. Precisely. Orochimaru hissed. But I require your continued support. Resources, rare bloodlines, individuals who won't be missed. Kuroda became silent and closed his eyes as he thought it over. A few seconds later the minister met Orochimaru's gaze. I can arrange for certain people to disappear. Those with unique abilities that might interest you. I knew I picked the right person. A sinister smile played on Orochimaru's lips. Your cooperation is invaluable. However, Kuroda interjected, if I'm to seize the position of daimyo, I'll need to eliminate my rivals within the court. Orochimaru inclined his head. Naturally. Who poses the greatest threat? He asked as if he didn't already know the answer to that. The Minister of Intelligence, Kuroda stated coldly. He's astute and has been watching my movements closely. After Tsunade is dealt with, I want to frame him for her disappearance. It will remove him and divert attention from us. A clever stratagem, Orochimaru mused. I'm sure I can come up with some evidence to ensure his downfall. Kuroda had a small smile and he nodded his head. Once he's out of the way, the path to the daimyo's seat will become clearer. Yet, there's still the matter of the Tsuchikage and the Hidden Stone Village, Orochimaru pointed out. They won't take kindly to a forcible shift in power. Kuroda's expression hardened as he thought about the old Kage of the Stone Village. I know. It's why after I secure the court, we target the Tsuchikage and bring the Hidden Stone Village under my control. Orochimaru raised an eyebrow. And why risk provoking one of the great shinobi villages? There is no need for two rulers in the land of Earth, Kuroda declared. With the Hidden Stone's strength assimilated into my own, I can unify this nation completely. Ambitious, Orochimaru remarked, a hint of amusement in his tone. And you believe you can achieve this? You're the one who said you can create an army of capable shinobi who can subdue any opposition. So you better live up to your words. The minister said with slightly narrowed eyes. He knew the man in front of him was dangerous, but he also believed that he would be safe from bodily harm. Hehehe. Of course, minister. And after you've unified the land of Earth? What will you do with all that power? Orochimaru asked with mirth in his eyes. Why do you want to know? Call it curiosity. Kuroda leaned back, his gaze distant. Then I'll begin my campaign into the land of fire. Their resources are vast, and their territory is ripe for expansion. You want to start a war with the land of fire? Orochimaru asked, his smile widening on his face. Yes, Kuroda affirmed. With the combined might of our forces, we can crush them. I'll not only be the daimyo of the land of Earth but also the architect of a new era. Orochimaru tapped his chin thoughtfully. You have a bold vision. It will certainly change the balance of power in the world. Daichi, who was watching the exchange, was shaking with fury. These bastards, these guys are willing to plunge entire nations into war for their own gain. Kuroda Michinori. You're a far greater threat than I gave you credit for. Orochimaru spoke again. Very well. Now that you have your answers, I'll proceed with the necessary preparations. As for the subjects for my experiments, I trust you'll provide me with suitable candidates. The Sannin asked with a smile. I'll have a list prepared, Kuroda confirmed. They will be delivered to you discreetly when the time comes. As Orochimaru turned to leave, he paused. One more thing, Minister. Yes? Should any complications arise, I trust you'll handle them with the utmost discretion. Naturally, Kuroda assured him. Orochimaru had a cryptic smile on his lips. Until we meet again then. The memory faded, and Daichi found himself back in the mental mansion. His fists clenched tightly as he processed what he just witnessed. So that's their plan. Orochimaru wants to use Lady Tsunade to create an army of wood-style users, while Kuroda plots to seize power and ignite a war with the Land of Fire. He took a deep breath, steadying himself. I've gathered enough from his mind. Time to act. That's the end of this tale for now. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in part 17. Peace.